You want to start?
Sure.
Yeah, just give us a countdown.
Meltdown retweeted it. That's good. Thank you, Meltdown.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Torn Tuesday. I'm Justin.
And I'm Clifford.
And we have a special guest today.
Hi, I'm Zelda Williams.
Welcome, the very lovely and very talented Zelda Williams, who happens to have more of an eye for fantasy and science fiction than you could ever suspect, or maybe you do. But we're here in the heart of, are we in Stockholm? I'm still somewhere else.
I know, you just got back from Sweden.
And you just got back from Austin.
What, you win.
And I got back from nowhere.
You got back from Brentwood.
No, I live up towards Hollywood area, but no, I'm in no way jet lagged.
Okay.
I'm just tired.
That's fabulous. Well, how was the shake, rattle, and roll that I missed? I missed
all the earthquakes and stuff.
4.7?
Right.
My boyfriend's Australian. He's never been in an earthquake before, and so he freaked out. But I was so asleep that I woke up to him shaking me awake. So I was more scared that something was wrong with my house. And so then once the earthquake happened, I was like, I'm from San Francisco. This is not at all scary. Why are you freaked out? And so I didn't really get to experience it. My dogs didn't like it though, so there's that.
Every time we have an earthquake, you're out of the country.
That happens.
Really?
Yeah. So
not let him leave the country that often then?
Yeah. We try to keep him here.
Preventative earthquake.
Yes, I'm the earthquake remedy, and I'm the
And you guys are joining us on our iPad, and we're following the chat along at TheOneRing.net/live. We're also on Justin TV. Thanks, Efren, for the hookup there. And we've got so much exciting stuff to talk about. But the big news today is it's Gondorian New Year today. On this day,
yes, it is.
Sauron fell.
This is the new year, and they actually started the new dating system based upon the day that Barad-dûr, technically, Tolkien said that Barad-dûr fell. See, I feel these technical things in him all the time.
Oh, we're already getting text messages. Welcome back, Cliff. We missed you.
Oh, I missed you too.
So you can text us at 530-64-FRODO. That's really our number.
Really?
Yeah.
That's great.
So it comes right to our cell phone here. So 530-64-FRODO. Text us questions, and we'll get them.
It reminds me of those old the telemarketing things where when you're a kid you can't really figure that out. Where you're like, but that's letters. And there's the numbers. Because we had a phone in my house that didn't have the ABC under one and whatnot.
Oh.
So I didn't really get it until.
What phone doesn't have an ABC under it?
We had the really cute old vintage phones for a little bit. Then we had the wall phones and
the rotary dial.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, those are fun. I remember those.
They're really fun. I still have one, but just to play with it. It's not very useful. It takes about 2 minutes to dial anyone.
Even today, if you want to call Time Warner Cable, which you never want to do, right? But it's 1-888-TW Cable. I mean, if you want to call them, you have to dial alphanumeric.
So you're saying we're as cool as Time Warner?
Her friend was a 9.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hated dialing 9s.
No, but it made such a fun noise on the way back around, though. That's what I always loved. I was the one who was like, yay! And it's a wonder I function at all.
Everybody in San Diego was 949, so it was the longest phone numbers.
Ours were 415 SF.
Oh, that's easy.
So SF's easy. It was all the same area.
Your finger never left the upper quadrant.
That's what she said?
Okay. You guys are probably way ahead of me because I'm seriously 8 hours jet lagged. According to my body clock, it's 1 a.m. And that's why I have new respect for Emily and Neil and all of our friends in the United Kingdom who come to join us. Our international audience, they stay up until 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. to visit and be part of our live show. And they're right here live with us. And they join us on Skype.
So fun.
It is amazing. And I have whole new respect for you guys who have school in the morning, you have work in the morning, and yet you still maintain that energy to join us on the show. Well, it's 5 p.m. here in lovely Los Angeles, and I was awakened to the sound of the ghetto vultures swooping over my house. The helicopters.
Oh, the helicopters.
Yeah.
I was like, ghetto vultures.
Yeah, that's what we call them. The helicopters over our house. And you don't hear a single siren, and you never hear police activity or helicopters over your house.
I do, but I'm right above.
In Sweden, you don't. No.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, what happened? I'm back in LA.
Yeah. I can't even imagine. It must be so dark in that country. You could see actual stars.
You can, yes, but I'll tell you what, they had an actual normal, diurnal cycle of daytime and nighttime hours. Only when you get to the high summer.
I don't understand half the words you use.
What's the opposite of nocturnal?
Diurnal.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Jones.
I don't deserve these glasses.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. I'm going to get all short stop on you in a minute if you don't do that. Okay, seriously. So you go to Sweden in the summer, it'll be 4 a.m., and there's still sunlight in the sky.
And I like that, but I'm an insomniac. I would love my days to be extremely long.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I write from the hours of 1 to 5 usually every night because it's my favorite. Nobody contacts me. I don't have to worry about being distracted by so much because there's not a lot going on.
Yeah.
They've actually have. I read a scientific thing in a journal or something that there's actually two types of creatives. Ones that are like really productive, 5 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And then they're like useless the rest of the afternoon. And then those that are like nighttime creatives that like after 11 p.m. like that's where everything comes out. You know.
Yeah, and I don't like writing during the day because there's too much that I also have to do otherwise, and it's like I have 2 dogs, I have this whole thing that it ends up taking an enormous amount away from like getting a completely uninterrupted, focused amount of time. So I get it, and I would like that if it was daytime, just because then it's pretty and I don't feel like I'm a complete recluse. Because I've had that conversation with friends before where they're like, "Oh, we thought you died." I was like, "No,
I'm just in the zone."
I was, I'm taking a month of me time." Which I can see how you would interpret that as maybe something's wrong.
Is there any record of Tolkien being a morning person or a night person?
Professor Tolkien had to be a morning person because of his obligations at school. I mean, his first and foremost job was to teach class and grade papers and do things at Oxford that he had to do. So as an academic, he was always an early morning person. And then the difficulty lies in how did he find all the extra time on the side to write a massive 1,200-page epic, and that's why it took him 17 years to actually get around to finishing The Lord of the Rings.
Sense.
Yeah.
So when people complain about George R.R. Martin taking a lot of time, they have no idea.
I was just going to say something about Mr. Martin, because there's a very serious piece of Stockholm history that I found out when I visited Stockholm that directly inspired the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones. And spoilers.
There has to be so many historical things that could inspire that.
It could, but listen, here's the story. Here's the story.
How learned is he?
I will bring it down to brass
imagine very
tacks.
much.
Do it.
Here's the succinct version. You're in the center of Stockholm. The Danish king takes over from the Swedish king, and there's still a lot of political enemies hovering around. So the new king, Nicholas, says, well, why don't you guys come and have a banquet? All will be forgiven. I'll forgive everything. You guys don't have to be political adversaries. Come on, let's have a dinner, and we'll celebrate and start a whole new fresh start. And then they do have a banquet for 3 days. He invites all of his political enemies to this huge party, and on the 3rd day of the banquet, all the gates suddenly close, the doors are shut, and he beheads them all in the public square. In the middle of a party.
This really happened?
In the middle of a party. It's the Stockholm bloodbath, yes.
Do you think they're just capitalizing on the sudden success of Game of Thrones? Like maybe they...
Yeah. 700 years ago, they just decided to capitalize on.
No,
Game
what
of Thrones, yeah.
you think you heard this story because they're like, oh well, that kind of happened, so let's tell people that.
No,
story.
I mean I heard this story. I'm like, invite your political enemies to a party and close the doors and kill them. That sounds to me like George
I've
Martin.
heard similar stories too from other places, except that's not to that extent, so that would make sense.
It sounds like he's a fan of Swedish history. And he must be, because you're talking about kingdoms and fiefdoms, and they're all struggling with each other for power over the centralized power in the throne, and it just sounds like Westeros to me. But anyways, Sweden was beautiful, and I have to say, my last story...
Massacre aside.
Massacre aside.
Wonderful.
So, oh God.
Some light topic conversation today.
I had the great pleasure of meeting the very first producer in the country of Sweden who adapted Bilbo, which is what they call The Hobbit. The title of the book is Bilbo, and she adapted it for the national broadcaster, Swedish Radio. Back in the mid-'70s, she produced a radio adaptation, and I talked to her. She's now 77 years old. She's a really lovely lady, and she talked with me for a little while about how challenging and interesting it was to produce Tolkien for the very first time in Swedish history. No one in the country had ever seen a film or heard anything on the radio about, The Hobbit, and it was quite successful, and it was really kind of fun, and I was just so delighted to meet her. You can see a picture of her on our Facebook timeline on theonering.net.
Oh, nice plug.
Nice plug. Yes.
I've always been curious. You had all these radio dramas, the BBC drama, and Sweden. Like every country has done a radio performance.
Yes.
But you were the voice of Samwise in the Lord of the Rings video game.
I was, yeah.
So I wonder if there was any difference because, they're just reading the book all the way through, but you have to kind of, because it's a video game, you're like a bunch of start-stops.
Yeah, and you have to make a bunch of hit sounds, grunts and gasps.
I don't like doing that. I do voiceover.
Yeah,
That's my least favorite.
Yeah.
Is when they're like, okay, now you're being thrown against a wall, and you're like, eh. It's like, it's hard. It's the only thing that I find really difficult.
It is, these non-articulate sounds
Yeah.
you've got to make when you've been hit by a sword or a monster or something.
Well, especially when it's
Yeah.
something especially bizarre, which I have more and more respect for people that work with a lot of green screen, because I'm like, okay, cool. This is your entire body having to figure out what you would do being chased by a dragon. It's like stuff like that,
Yeah.
where it's like actually a dude in a green leotard, which is even more distracting, and a tennis ball in his hand. That's much more difficult than even if nothing was there. But it is quite funny with video games and cartoons to see. You're really lucky if you get to see what you're doing and then match it up to it, but sometimes they just tell you.
Have you done cartoons?
I have.
Which ones?
I can't tell you yet. It hasn't been announced.
Oh, really? Oh, cool. Well,
But
that's
it's really
cool.
fun, and I'm really excited by it. But I've also, I just started doing voiceover work like this year, and it's
Excellent.
really fun. It's
Excellent.
really great, and I've always loved video games and cartoons so much, and so in order to actually get to be a part of them now is really cool.
It is.
Because I never really approached that, and there's a small part of me that's like the little kid that you walk into these amazing sound booths, and they have your favorite things on the wall. Like, not just like movies that you enjoyed and stuff, but it's like actually your childhood formative favorite cartoon and like
one.
all of these
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
There's a really great documentary about it called I Know That Voice.
Yeah,
And
that's
it
a good
was
one.
wonderful,
That's good.
and it helped a lot in that understanding what you're about to embark on, because it's not easy.
Well, now on TV, pretty much all the Hobbits are on a cartoon somewhere. Like
They
Sean
are.
Astin is on
Mm-hmm.
Ninja Turtles. Elijah's on Star Wars,
Mm-hmm.
Clone Wars.
Denethor, by John Noble, is actually one of the villains in the Transformers series.
Have fun.
What a great
Really?
voice. He
know
delivers
that.
voice, that man. John Noble's great.
Dominic Monaghan's first voiceover gig was his movie.
For our documentary that we did.
Oh,
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, when I said, Dominic, we want to do this documentary feature film about how people respond to Tolkien, Led Zeppelin, rock and roll, the American counterculture movement in the 60s. He said,
Interesting.
okay, well, we were having lunch across the street at Chibo. We were sitting there at Chibo. Dominic is, idly munching on a salad, and we're trying to pitch this idea to him, not knowing that he would warm up to the idea. And he instantly did. And after doing the narration for Ringers, he went on to do National Geographic specials and
Yeah.
History Channel shows and all this great VO work. He's really
It's
good.
interesting. Narration,
Really good.
they're only really starting to use women now, because it became a very male-oriented world.
Yes.
Because the low, deep voices. So it's
Yeah.
actually, that's even changing a lot now.
Yeah.
Because that's why I was actually initially brought in, was I do a lot of characters, but then they were like, well, what do you feel about narration? And I went, well, that's very strange, but sure. And they're starting to use women. And
Really?
it's great, yeah, slowly but surely.
That's
Because
excellent.
there are also a lot of documentaries that it doesn't make sense necessarily for men to be narrating them, whether it's about some of the women's rights movements or things like that, where it just is actually almost off-putting to hear like a very deep male voice being like, and then the suffragettes, and you're like,
yeah, thank you.
so they're starting
Yeah.
to do,
Yeah.
they're starting to bring in women. So it's actually, and more and more actors, as like the next 5 years, are all going into voiceover now. That previously it was a realm, Dad did Aladdin, and he was one of the first people to be hired as a celebrity already in his own right to do voiceover work. It was kind of unheard of at the time.
Yeah.
It's now completely done a 180, and now they're actually like stunt casting cartoons, which is really great. It's strange, but it's
It
fun
is.
still.
But it makes it difficult for voiceover actors like me, who are not at an A-list level, to
Yeah.
get any job at all.
Well, especially the
That's
movie
a
ones. Thankfully,
backlash.
I think that the voiceover, the really like voiceover artists are still getting a lot of the best cartoon work, which is a
Yes.
lot of the best money.
Yeah.
But a lot of the big Disney films and stuff, yeah, that's all like big talent people now. It's actually alarming.
It is.
It's
It is
fun,
amazing.
but strange.
You know Tom Kane? Have you had the chance to meet him yet?
I don't think so.
He did Professor Utonium on the Powerpuff Girls.
Oh, fun!
But when I got, well, he's fantastic. But he does thousands and thousands and thousands of other voices for other shows and games. But he got pulled in to play Gandalf in the video game where I was playing Sam. So I was leaving the studio, he was walking in, and my jaw hit the floor. I was like, Tom, is that you, Tom Kane? Because like coming face to face with one of your voiceover idols. And we talked all about working with Gendy Tartakovsky.
Yeah.
Can't pronounce it, but I love him. Gendy Tartakovsky, we talked about working on Powerpuff Girls, and he goes in there and he does this Gandalf voice that you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's Tom Kane.
See, unfortunately, we can't do that. But
But here, women doing documentaries. Let's go back, let's rewind. There was an Oscar-nominated documentary film. The narrator was Elizabeth Montgomery, who we know from Bewitched. And I grew up with her in the 60s as, Bewitched. And
What
then
movie was this?
This was a movie about some, I think it was a very difficult political movie about war crimes in Cambodia or something like that. And it was 1988, 87 when this movie was nominated for an Oscar. I have to look it up.
Oh, that's way
And this is the very
before my
first time I had ever heard a female voice be the narrator for a hardcore, full-length documentary film. Blew everyone away. The industry was talking about it because there weren't women voices.
That's the
Yeah.
thing is it is
Yeah.
changing completely now. I was
That's good.
laughing. There are, especially people that love cartoons so much, you start realizing sometimes that your favorite character in the cartoon is also sometimes more so because of the voice actor, like Bender and then Adventure Time. Like I did,
Yeah.
Adventure Time was not initially something that I was like, oh, this doesn't seem like it's going to be something I'll love. And then the second his character came on, I was like,
Yes.
oh, never mind, I'm fine.
Joe DiMaggio.
Yeah,
That's
it's
DiMaggio.
brilliant. And so
He
it's
is
like
brilliant.
those kind of ones, and some of them they don't change their voice that much. The guy who does Archer, he
Yeah.
does a lot of other characters, but they sound exactly the same. You still love what he brought to the
Yes.
character.
Definitely.
So that's why I think more and more actors are doing that too, because also they can have their careers the way they are and not interfere with them, but do stuff that they wouldn't get to do as some
Do you
whatever
think
indie actor.
this
I
female
love his
voice
voice.
trend
Oh, it's great.
kind of gave Disney the confidence to do Frozen, like change the story and be like,
I have a whole issue with that, by the way. 'cause
Really?
all these people are talking about how it's the first feminist Disney movie.
I wouldn't go that far,
I
but
know. I get that neither of
It's a
them ends
thing.
up with a guy necessarily. Well, they kind of do, but not really. It's the implications of it. But it's not the first movie where someone, like the woman, took it into her own hands to save people that mattered to her. I mean, Mulan, things like
Yeah.
that.
I love
It is the
Mulan.
first of some of the classic ones, and it's made, thankfully, the biggest impact, which
Yeah.
I think it should have. It was really fun
Mm-hmm.
and really great to watch. But I sometimes look at people and I'm like, why do you think that all these movies are so awful? They're not. I don't think that young girls should only think that they can be princesses. But that's the thing is there
Yeah.
are movies that wasn't the case.
So what about like in The Hobbit? You know, you've got an elf that's not a princess or anything, but she's a new character. So there's this dialogue going on with Tolkien fundamentalists
Yeah.
and people that haven't read the book.
Why does
like
he
me.
point to me?
What? You're
What? Okay.
you hate the changes. You were ready to rip up your ticket as soon as you walked out of the
Yeah,
first
this is
screen.
your new our news
yeah.
channel real time moment
This
where
is
he's
like-
like, you're on
this
this
is
side
our-
because you know
we
how
do this
I
all the
feel
time.
about it. And I'm a huge proponent of very strong female characters, but I didn't think that it necessarily brought that much more to the film. It's nothing in opposition of her, but it didn't change the story fundamentally because it shouldn't. The story needs to fundamentally be the same. It's an adaptation.
Yes.
So bringing her in, I don't know who it was for, is more so my issue. I still
It's
enjoyed
a
it.
whole trilogy of movies without one female character in the entire story. Don't you feel like there needed to
They
be?
were written that way.
They were written that way. Now, that point of view about should we add female characters
That'd be
comes
like
from
if you want
the
to,
filmmaking
if you made the
industry.
Thousand Acre Woods. I mean, there are female, but they're toys. They're stuffed animals.
Right.
Does he need to have a female friend that comes in with her stuffed animals in order to make it relatable to women? I read all of the Lord of the Rings and loved them very much, but
Yeah.
I didn't feel left out necessarily because I'm a woman reading a book mainly about men. I just think that when you start doing that, when you start compromising an adaptation to make it feel more inclusive, sometimes it can go awry. Sometimes it's great. The new casting with there's a great example with they're doing Pan, and they just
Right.
cast Rooney Mara as a Native American character, a very
Yes.
famously Native American character.
Oh, yeah,
And
of
some people
course.
were upset by that for obvious reasons. But then other people were saying, oh, well, what about Johnny Storm being black? And I had to have a moment where I was like, I don't think you guys understand. He's going to be playing a black guy with superpowers. He's not playing a black guy playing a white guy. She's still playing a Native American character.
Yes.
So
Yes.
and sometimes Hollywood gets it a little strange, and they get a little backwards about how they're going to be
They
PC.
do. They do.
They
yeah.
do.
Even the Vikings, which is a hit show on
Yeah.
HBO, a lot of Swedish people I've discovered are really pissed off that there are no Scandinavian actors in the show except one.
Yeah, but
None.
as someone who's partially Asian, you should see what they do to us. they hire Chinese as Japanese and Korean as Chinese.
Yeah,
And
they
it's just,
do.
and
They
I'm
do.
Filipino, so I shouldn't even really fall into any of that necessarily because
Right.
we are you know, it's just, it all gets put aside. And I all the time I get told I'm not white enough to be the white character, but I'm not ethnic enough to be the ethnic character. And it's just, Hollywood's very strange about it because they want to make a statement with these things. And I just don't know what his statement was with adding her. That's my thing is.
But there's one
Okay.
of the things you
Good
said.
point.
You don't know what his statement was, but the movie was written by 2 women. So they're coming at it from.
Yeah, but he still has the power.
Well, they were working off.
True.
Him
network-
and Guillermo were working off the script that those women wrote.
Yeah, but not together. Again, they were working separately on the same script. So when Guillermo left, then it's Peter's choice, and it's the studio. And he does have a lot of power, but the studio still gets to make these decisions. And they still made that decision, and that's great. I just don't know why. That's my thing is it's like there's moments in it that I just don't understand. That's all. I still enjoy it for what it is. I don't think it detracted
Okay,
from
so
the movie.
the
I just don't know what it added.
The execution you feel is pretty good.
If they don't turn it into some, which they're kind of doing, is some like added love story for the sake of having one.
Well, she didn't even want to do that because when we talked to her, she said she agreed to do the role.
Her, you mean Evangeline Lilly?
Well, and I don't know if that's them reaching out to, you know, kind of looking at the studio's mindset, 16 to 25-year-old women being like, come to The Hobbit. It's not just for dudes. There's a love story in it. And I'm like,
but they never positioned it like that.
yeah, but they kind of do.
No.
Yeah, because Lee Pace's character is like, don't give him any hope where there isn't none.
Yeah.
He's fond of you,
Oh,
and
yeah,
it'll
there
never
was that
happen. And I'm like, okay,
commercial.
now you're turning it into this like Romeo and Juliet. You can't be together, so don't try. And then it's like, because, okay, I will admit that women do occasionally enjoy that. But I don't think it's necessary to this movie. I don't think it's
But
part of
don't
it.
you think a tentpole movie like this has a role to play in inspiring young girls to be?
Yes, but then I don't think they need to pander them.
I agree.
I don't think they need to pander to them to do that. I think that a lot of young women are inspired by stories that aren't necessarily trying to inspire them with, let's throw you a love interest, let's throw you a bone. Here's Orlando Bloom, you know, like.
Well, the reason why we have understood through a variety of conjecture and with other details and gossip we've gotten about the scripts, we have figured out why Tauriel is there, and it is all about Legolas. It's all about giving Legolas a motivation to show up in Fellowship of the Ring. If Legolas, who is following his father's isolationist policy and following his father's teaching to let the rest of the world deal with their own effing problems, and we were not going to deal with anything, we're going to isolate ourselves. If Mr. Legolas learns through Tauriel extending herself and having an opening in her listening to other races, other cultures, other problems, then after she meets her ultimate demise, which I assume Tauriel will meet her ultimate demise in the third film.
Otherwise, where was she? Yeah.
Then otherwise, where was she? Then Mr. Legolas is going to feel like, oh, sugar, I really am living a life without living a full life. And Tauriel has taught him something. And I'm not being an apologist
I just
for
also think
Fran
that he
and
could have
Philippa,
come to
but
that on his own. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying is it does also sell him short in these decisions. If that was their intention, that didn't exist initially in the books, but he still got to that place.
Yeah.
So anywho, it's fine. I don't actually have a problem with it. I just think it's funny. I have much more of a problem with some of the other things that Hollywood's doing with adaptations. I have much more of a problem with them doing stuff that I think limits a story where it necessarily didn't need to be. This didn't limit it per se. I just think it changed it in a way that is not necessary.
Well, and that's the
but
big
is fine.
dialogue that the fan base is having. Even Tedris in the chat room was just saying, I don't think a movie has any role beyond one of entertainment. Why must we always overanalyze? It's far too trite. Some
We can
people just want to
overanalyze everything, though. That's the fun thing about it is it's like that's part of being human. We can look at it. Well, show me an apple, and you can tell them that no, it's not really. I'm going to disagree with you on this being a good apple. It's like it's the same thing. Movies were created for entertainment and escapism.
Well,
they were created in a time of war so that people could be happy again. It's the same thing. Someone was asking me about. Public speaking in comedy and their relationship, and how there's a lot of these people that would like people like my dad to also become not life coaches, not that whole come pay for me in this stadium, but that's what they do basically. They even if they're not telling you how to live your life, they make you happy even for a moment in time. Comedians and that whole thing. Movies are very similar, even when they frustrate you. I'm the first person that some of my favorite movies are movies that there's a lot of people who think are terrible, but I love them. I'm a huge B movie fan of all these B horror films. I love zombie movies more than anything. I'll have debates with people about them all day. And I watch every horror film that comes out because I find them fascinating, even when they're bad. So it's of course, if you don't want to overanalyze it, just don't have friends who overanalyze movies.
Well,
that might be difficult, but
In this town?
yeah, I know.
We just got a chat that says, what about the tale of Beren and Luthien from the Silmarillion? And that was a love story that was given to Arwen and Aragorn, or Arwen and Aragorn's love story was very much trumped up in the films.
It was.
But nobody calls that out there like this was beautiful and this is everything we wanted out of a Tolkien movie.
Professor Tolkien wrote the Arwen and Aragorn story as a direct reflection back to Beren and Luthien, which was his most personal
The thing is,
story
though, at
of
least
all.
those characters actually existed,
Yeah.
even if they tried. That's my. Again,
So a
people
fundamentalist, you don't want any changes.
No, I don't mind.
The book is holy. And
if
you
anything,
cannot-
I'm being a devil's advocate. I'm just saying the other side of it as it is. And from my point of view, we talked about this earlier. The Hobbit are fun. It was never a book that I really connected to. I would much rather they made 9 Lord of the Rings movies than they made 3 Hobbit movies.
Same here.
So, for me, I don't have that much invested in this. It's just an opinion I enjoy sharing. The Lord of the Rings ones, I can understand with those why they might have taken something from the with a retainer. It's very hard to say that, by the way.
Is it?
Silmarillion. And made it about, Arwen and Aragorn. And by the way, I'm not a Legolas fangirl. I was an Aragorn fangirl. So, of course, we wanted someone to put ourselves in that circumstance. So maybe I'm just not understanding because I don't connect with Legolas.
So have you connected with any of the the characters in the movie? Like, are you more of a Thranduil, or are you more of the hot dwarves, Fili and Kili?
The hot dwarves.
Oh my. Here we go.
This is not a movie that I necessarily even wanted to look at as there being someone that I was like, ooh, because I don't know, I don't even know what they really look like outside of their costumes. But I love Gandalf. I don't know. You can give him all the space, and I will respect wonderful silver foxy men with big beards forever. No, I don't know. I'd never really thought about it like that because it wasn't a movie I was embarking on expecting a love story side of it, and then there was one, and then I was like,
Not just a love story, a love triangle.
Listen.
know.
I have over the years.
kind of though, but not really.
But they didn't even go too far. But he did say there could be anything down my pants, which I slapped my head, smacked my head at that moment.
There were some
There were some bits of dialogue. But listen, most of the years go by with me being accused of being a Peter Jackson apologist for the changes he made.
Apologist?
Yes, for the things he made to the Lord of the Rings.
Oh.
Because I'm the guy who always says Peter Jackson did such a great job on the Lord of the Rings. I have toned down some of that.
There's Peter
From-
Jackson Is
Yeah.
this become a political thing?
That's
Now
what they
this
say.
is fun for me. I've never heard this
They
before.
do. Now, at one moment, I've been called that, and that's not accurate, because now you're telling me that I was so pissed off at Desolation of Smaug, I wanted to tear up my ticket.
You did. You did.
The thing is,
was there.
The thing is that I was really not pleased with the cliffhanger ending. That the choice of editing to finish the film where it was finished and not resolve dealing with the dragon aggravated the heck out of me. Much less separating Thorin and company and having 4 of them stay behind in Lake Town. I thought that was a bit strange too. But that is where I'm more of a purist on Tolkien's side.
Yeah.
I'm more interested in integrity to the original book because the book makes so much sense in the way Tolkien wrote it, and
That's why it's a classic.
Yeah.
and that's why it's a classic. But then again, from a movie maker's perspective, and as a screenwriter, you certainly have to adapt things. The people who are left behind, Owen, Boffer, and Fili and Kili, left behind at Lake Town, gives Thorin a lot more to worry about. Worrying about his nephews, worrying about the dragons going there to kill, my kinsmen and my nephews. So it does give the screenwriter a chance to raise the dramatic stakes in the third film.
The third film's
I
going to
guess.
be way different than anyone wants.
I'm sure.
I don't know.
I can understand. I can understand the duology if it was originally going to be that, because there is a pretty distinct way that you could make it 2 movies. I get how they could do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really know if we're talking about from point A to point B. I don't really see how, even if you make a second movie that's worth watching, how there's even space for the third movie. Or is he going to make a second movie that's kind of like all these little moments, and then like save the big moments for and that's just like it.
Like all the big
So then either the third movie or the second movie is going to potentially not have enough in it, or it's just strange. I feel like
Right.
it's being stretched a little thin.
Thank
and
you.
there,
Yeah.
I'm grateful in the end as well that we get to see all of it, because I will never complain about getting it in the end, because there's a lot of my favorite books that they'll never probably finish telling them because they didn't make the money they expected to in the first place. His Dark
Narnia.
Materials,
And his Dark-
Narnia.
Yeah.
We never got to A Horse and His Boy, which was one of my favorite
In
my
mine,
favorite
that
ones.
was my favorite of this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's but because it also didn't have even the Provenci kids in it, they were like, oh, well, it kind of does, but not really. They were like, oh, well, nobody's going to want to watch it because it's basically a whole new thing. And I was like, what? Stop speaking
Good
for us.
stories
It's one of my
and-
favorites.
Yeah.
or-
The silver chair. Yeah.
So
Love
we won't get those. And The Subtle Knife was one of my favorites as well, and they'll never get to it because The Golden Compass didn't do that well. And that's hard.
wow.
So I'd much rather.
Yeah.
They
still
didn't
us-
mess this up. They changed
No,
things, but
they
they
changed
didn't mess
things, but
it
it's
up.
still going to be a blast, and we can complain all we want, and we can tear it to pieces. But I'm still going to buy the DVDs. I
Yeah.
won't pretend, even though I would have much rather, as we said, have seen 9 Lord of the Rings and have every single extended edition, which I do, and I just wish there was more. I will still probably buy The Hobbit because it's fun.
Let's go into speculation land about the Silmarillion for just a second.
Yes.
With the success of Game of Thrones, which, don't need to say anything more about that. Love it, thank you, HBO. But if the Silmarillion were made, wouldn't it be a better format than a theatrical film or 3 theatrical films? Wouldn't it be a better format to try the Silmarillion as an ongoing, yearly mega series that has time to develop
Television.
all the characters?
Sure,
What do you
but the
think?
one argument I would make for that is that, and I like Game of Thrones. I've been spoiled by how many epic fantasy movies are made for movies,
Yeah.
where they spend more time with the editing and they spend more time with the special effects. Game of Thrones is fun, but as someone who's such a special effects nerd, I still go, oh, that looks cheap. And there's like moments of it that, especially with the biggest franchise currently out there other than like Harry Potter,
Yeah.
with making money and how much money they put into these movies, I think we're so spoiled by them that if it was a TV show and it got cheaper and they had to make it for less, even though it'd still be very expensive,
will
I'm
have to
sure
make it for
they will
less.
have to
I
make
mean,
it for
that's
less. They
just-
don't get to throw 200 million at
On
a
a
yearly
TV
TV
show.
show. They don't get to do that.
Yeah,
It's going
yeah.
to be less. It's going to be less epic. It's going to be less of these things.
Yeah.
I don't know if it necessarily would work as a TV show because I do think a lot of people would be disappointed.
And even with
I get that.
even with the highest budget, like The Hobbit, got
Yeah.
the highest budget, and people still complain that the effects just aren't the same as they
Yeah.
were in Lord of the Rings.
You
15
being the
years ago.
primary one.
Oh yeah, no
Yeah.
miniatures, no bigatures. It's
I
all
do miss the
digital.
bigatures.
I miss them.
I
Like,
miss the bigatures.
You know, it's like the same argument could be said for like The Fifth Element with the new New York,
Yeah.
where they made the 18-foot version of new New York that they brought the
so
cameras through, and
good.
then they added the cars in afterwards, and people can complain all they want, but it was the best special effects
Yeah.
anyone had really seen at the time.
Yeah.
That's great, and that's what movie magic still has over TV magic.
Budget.
And that's why there's also a lot of video games that have these epic scale to them now, because they create whatever they want from nothing, and they have the money to now because of this new world. And they make $1 billion in an opening weekend on some of these video games.
crazy.
So that's what I'm saying is it's like TV hasn't caught that yet. It hasn't figured out how to necessarily make as much money quickly enough to spend that much money to even make more.
I get that. It's interesting. Game of Thrones, the characters will talk about a major battle that just happened.
Yeah.
They'll say, "Oh yeah, we just lost 3,000 of our troops,"
Ah.
and it's something we never even saw on screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does happen a lot.
It's. I just don't think the scale would necessarily suit it. I don't think.
How about animation?
Animation would be great. I'm always
It is great.
I'm always the biggest supporter of like make all these epic things anime.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
on the
for
same
sure.
vein, anime for me was always when something was too epic and too difficult to make for the big screen, it was very well suited to anime.
Yes.
I mean, now we could maybe approach some of these things, but when Princess Mononoke was made,
Oh.
they could not have made it
No.
as a feature film.
Never.
See, that's what I'm
never.
saying.
Never.
And I would love, by the way, as someone who loves that so much,
Yes.
I wish that they would then make it as a feature to bring people just to the anime.
Yeah.
And I know that's probably sacrilegious to say, and I know
Well, aren't
thankfully
they doing-
Miyazaki would never.
Aren't
No.
they doing that broomstick girl movie?
Kiki's Delivery Service?
Aren't they doing
I
that
would be
as a movie?
shocked if he
I
sold
would be
rights to
surprised.
anything.
Yeah, that-
No. Studio Ghibli wouldn't ever let
Yeah,
that
I don't think
happen.
within his lifetime they're ever going to
We're-
let
we're
people adapt
daydreaming.
it.
We're daydreaming over
I would.
there.
Princess
I swear
Mononoke, by
that
the
someone
way,
is
is
making-
my dream role. Were I to ever be able to do that,
That would be-
That's
you'd be
like the
great
favorite
in
thing
that.
for it. But at the same time, I hope they never do, it's hard. It's a double-edged sword because I just want more people to know about it and to connect with it because it is such an epic story.
It is.
It's such a big thing, and anime is one of the few places where they have also done a lot of those stories with women as leads. It's still not even happening in film, really.
This is
They
interesting.
haven't decided to do that yet.
Over the years, Miyazaki has become something of well noted for having strong female
Very strong.
leads. Very strong.
There's a really funny meme about Frozen where it's like,
Yes.
it was something like, this is the first Disney princess film that had 2 strong female leads in it and no male counterparts that, were, it was like very feminist. And then at the bottom, it's Princess Mononoke with her face dripping with blood going, oh, that's adorable. It's like, and that was made so long
love
ago.
that.
I think that
Yes.
I think the future of doing films, anime films, will all depend on if Akira is good. I mean,
Oh no,
everybody
don't
has,
even get me started.
The live action
and
Akira?
unfortunately,
Don't. I'm
everything
so-
I've heard about the movie and the making
awful!
of the movie, and
It's
the casting
awful.
of the movie,
No, it's
lame.
awful.
Really lame.
They
Really
told
lame.
it.
So
Again,
frustrating.
And this isn't the kind of movie where I necessarily think it has to have an all-Asian cast. I do think that one of the good things about anime is it could be, in a lot of places, different things, but they are so whitewashing everything out of it. But this isn't even just race-wise. Everything. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, well, the Hollywood audience can't handle the drug stuff. And I'm like, that's like,
That's Hollywood.
That's the-
That is
that's like
Hollywood.
I
That's
know,
the
but I'm like,
frickin'
that's
point.
more than that, too. I was like, that's like a huge, what? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And that's one of the ones also that I almost think is too epic to be adapted. Akira is like so strange and so, the scale is so enormous.
Yes, yes.
Like there are movies that would kind of suit, anime movies that would kind of suit becoming movies. Paprika, for example, I think could also
Oh, yeah.
be serialized and made into a
Yeah.
TV show. And
That
those
could be.
concepts are more easy to approach. Akira is so freaking vast that
Yeah.
you're kind of looking at them going, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And you're going to remove the
I
old
agree.
children and like all this
Yeah.
stuff. And I'm like, what? That's the best.
It's
No.
over everybody's heads.
If-
Come on, there's a reason it's a classic.
If Kiki's Delivery Service does become a live action film, it will probably. It is? Is it really? In Japan.
I told you.
Okay.
Wonder Woman's
Okay.
doing
Well,
it.
then this is understanding the relationships between Japanese creatives in their film industry. We just have to quell the rumor that it would be made by an American studio. That wouldn't happen because Ghibli would rather have.
Yeah, I think
one
you'd
of their-
rather. I think
yeah.
it's like a J.K. Rowling only wanting someone British to have bought the rights to her books to feel like it was protected.
Fair enough, fair
In
enough.
that case, I don't think it was necessary, but I understand.
And you know,
I do think that there's something to that staying in that culture initially if it's going to be adapted. Because Kiki's especially is not that dangerous to adapt. It's very easy. It's very sweet. It's like Totoro. Totoro you could adapt as
Yes.
well, and it'd be fun, and it'd be for kids, and it would be okay.
Yes.
But the more epic ones need to be handled carefully, and Akira is one of those.
I agree.
I don't understand why
agree.
that's their first go-to. There's so many. I mean, and there's like the whole argument with Pacific Rim being like Gundam and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And those are
Yeah.
those have
It's just in the
tangents.
same genre. You know, we
Yeah.
got a text message. I wish they would make another animated Lord of the Rings films. I've never even considered that.
I
actually.
really enjoyed the sloppy psychedelic Ralph Bakshi version.
Very strange.
It was very, very interesting, but at least you had Saruman saying, I am wearing a coat of many colors. At least you had some
Yeah.
real great, interesting little bits of fidelity to, the original, but it was just
I would
such
see
a
it if
drug trip.
Miyazaki did it.
Oh, yeah.
If he did them, then I would do it. I would do everything in my power to see that happen.
Yes.
I don't know about most other people. I wouldn't.
Would
I
you
wouldn't
try
find it
to be a
interesting
voice
enough.
on it?
Of
There's not
course.
really any that would suit me necessarily.
Lord of the Rings?
In Lord of the Rings?
Galadriel?
Oh, I think I'm a little young and passionate for Galadriel because she's so poised. It's why I loved her portrayal in the movie so much because she seems almost so alien even in how she is as a person.
Yes.
So it was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like
7,000 years old.
Yeah, I'm a 24-year-old super nerd video game player who's like, I just think that I would maybe even be too. Like, I can't imagine being like the whole, hi, guys. It just sounds like a really bad phone sex hotline. So I just don't think, but I would love to see, I would buy those movies in a heartbeat if he did them. I just don't know about
I would-
anyone else.
I would-
I don't know any other animated directors and things that I would want to hand that to.
Well,
It would
Brad
be the-
Bird, maybe?
He's into movies now. And
Brad Bird is all live action now, but there's a lot of nostalgia in my heart for the Rankin and Bass animated Hobbit, which is what brought me to the books. And here's an irony that we've talked about a lot. Peter Jackson saw Bakshi's Lord of the Rings. It inspired him to start reading it. He wouldn't have bothered reading it if it hadn't been for Bakshi in the first place. So there's something to be said for that chain of events.
And a lot of people discovered the Tolkien books through the first movies, so through Peter Jackson movies.
I can't speak to that because I was one of those kids that my mom gave me Narnia and the Lord of the Rings when I was really young. I was like 6 or 7 and was kind of basically allowing them to be the first books I really connected to read by myself. And I did. You know, Narnia especially I think Narnia came first because that's a little bit easier for kids to grasp, even though then when you reread them later, you're like, oh my God, there's so much in here that I didn't know, and all this indoctrination and stuff. But,
Yeah.
which it was not at all my family or my mother's intention. She knew I'd read it for the fantasy side of it. And then it's like you find your way to, in my case, The Lord of the Rings, and then it was Serial and Labriel and the Aborson, which is Garth Nix's trilogy, which is very much a female Lord of the Rings. And it expanded I was a bookworm. I was not a movie nerd. I became a movie nerd much later on because I started respecting it for being all of the arts put together. But I had to find them all separately first.
Did you read The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings first?
Lord of the Rings. I can't make it through The Hobbit. I've tried. I just don't connect with it. I can't.
Fascinating.
I love The Lord of the Rings. I reread them usually once every 3 years. Because my mom does the same thing with the Game of Thrones. She rereads all the books. When the new one comes out, she rereads all of them up until that book that year. So then she can have them all completely fresh in her mind to read the new one.
Wow.
Did you hear about this woman that it was on the blogosphere a month ago or so that she was reading The Hobbit to her child, to her daughter, and then halfway through her daughter kept referring to Bilbo as she. It's like, is she going to make it through? And so, and like her daughter was interpreting the reading as Bilbo as a woman.
Yeah. Well, I don't, and I think that that's one of the things that a lot of people, especially Hollywood, doesn't understand, that women don't necessarily need a female character to connect to something. A lot of my favorite characters are men. I'm not ashamed of it, and it doesn't make me any less of someone who supports every female cause out there. People need to stop being a bit too PC about that. Well, there's a lot of bigger issues.
We even see that at Dragon Con last year.
Yeah.
We had a costume contest, and the entire company of dwarves, 13 dwarves, showed up. Beards, boots, the whole deal. They were all women.
Yeah, that's great.
They're hysterical. I love their
costumes. That's really fun. I think I've seen them online.
It.
I think Ecology posted their photos of them each in their costumes, and it's great. I think people need to stop taking that a little bit too seriously. Some of my favorite people at Comic-Con that I see every year are the men in drag versions of women. And they're not drag queens. They're not. It's just really fun for them to wear these costumes, and they get a lot of attention for it. And some women are like they're making fun of it. Absolutely not. This is an overweight man dressed as Princess Leia. If anything, he's making fun of himself and enjoying it. And people should take it a little less seriously.
I love cross-dressing.
Everyone can be fans of any character. It's part of the great stuff about reading and watching movies is some of my favorite characters are villains. It doesn't make me a bad person. You know, it's like they need to stop. It's okay. Well, it's all okay.
One of the crazy stats of, we tell all of our advertising friends at TheOneRing.net is that 68% of our audience are female. But how many?
It's not surprising.
How many Hobbit toys are in the girls' aisle?
None, I would imagine.
None. How many Halloween costumes? Hobbit branded Halloween costumes are in the girls section. None, and so there's you've got the story that
the world sells to women has always been a bit of a problem, and they're slowly starting to figure it out, but it's been too controlling for a very long time. It always has. It's like that idea that young girls like Barbies. I absolutely hated Barbies. And I didn't grow up in like some weird, I was anti-girly. It wasn't, when I became a teenager, I shaved my head and did a whole thing, but that's also being a teen. It's rebellion and whatever. But when I was a girl, I just hated Barbies. I hated dolls. I thought dolls watched you when you slept, and it's no wonder now I like horror films because it's really fun for me. But I hated Barbies. I shaved them. I pulled off their limbs and hung them from things, and my parents were like, okay, never mind, we'll get you other things. And so it ended up being like other toys because what they were selling to women, I thought I didn't connect to. It's nothing new. It's been going on forever. I think hopefully in the next 10 years, especially there's a lot of studio heads that I think fairly soon are going to retire. They're getting older. They're getting not less relevant necessarily, but they just aren't keeping up with this new changing thing. It's not too dissimilar from what's happening some places politically. It will change Hollywood. It will change Hollywood enormously. I think a lot of big directors will start finally directing video games and bridging that gap.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I would
Oh
see
yeah,
that.
especially after things like LA Noire and Heavy Rain and these games that I've really enjoyed. They just did Between Two Souls with Ellen Page,
Yeah.
and I remember reading that script and how interesting it was. And the only thing they're missing are the people who make some of these films so fascinating and legendary and layered, making these video games that layered so that people can play these characters. It's very close by. We can talk about the uncanny valley all you want. I do still think that there's not the same emotional connection with video games because they look like reanimated corpses when you make them look too real. And that's
There's a
a
Beowulf
scientific,
thing.
but the uncanny valley is a scientific fact. It's true of like CGI. It's why kids cried in Polar Express,
yes.
because they're like, oh my god, dead people. It's like that. But they'll fix that eventually. And with how much it's grown in the last 5 years, it's unbelievable where it'll be in 10 years.
There's a couple of directors. James Gunn directed a couple of video games.
But I think I meant more like the people that are not like Martin Scorsese. I think they're going to start. These guys are. There's too much money in it. They're getting too much interest in it. It'll start happening. It's.
Agreed.
I mean, I'm going to be probably not the first to say this, but it's a very temperamental thing to bring up. I do think that it's potential that video games will have its own Oscar category in the next decade. I don't see why it wouldn't. It's scripted, it's entertainment, kids are more likely to play that for 18 hours and spend $50 on it than go to a movie for
Indeed,
2 or 1.5.
indeed.
Well, let me take the
Allow me to interject. The way that Gore Verbinski created Rango with all the motion capture, with all of his actors, is exactly the same way that the actors are being, mocapped for video games.
Yeah.
So, you're very right. The intersection of these two art forms is right around the corner.
It's getting more and more, and unfortunately, I do think video games will take over for film. I don't think that it will destroy film. I think film will exist in a certain sense, but they are bigger now.
Yes.
They are bigger and scarier. They make more money. They
Yes.
cost more money. More is put into it, and I
Yes.
think that big blockbusters like the Transformer movies, like these things, they're going to stop making those as that and make them video games, as opposed to making these secondary video games that always suck.
Yeah.
Well,
They're going to make the video game as the forethought.
Yeah.
We have a few
Fascinating.
a few people in the chat room. Nicole in Canada says, at McDonald's, they were horrified when I'd always ask for the boys' toy because they were cooler.
Yeah.
And we've got
in Sweden, there's such a very, very progressive, super left progressive society. They always encourage the boys to play with girls' toys and the girls to be free to play with boys' toys on either side. In fact, just within the past year or so, they've started teaching a new pronoun in the language that is not gender specific. It's neither he nor she. They're teaching preschool children to use a whole new pronoun, which is a neutral.
I have to
completely
explain
neutral
all the
pronoun.
time to friends of mine about tranny being derogatory because they
yes.
don't know the history of it. And while it might not have initially, it's always had derogatory connotations, but they're calling drag queens trannies. And trans people there's so many areas that people are not grasping yet, and I understand why, because they weren't faced with it. I'm from San Francisco, so I have a lot of moments where I'm like, this community is it's not a touchy one, but it's one that has to defend itself because it's only just starting to even have people know about it.
Exactly.
I've been openly bi since I was like 15.
Yeah.
So and while we're almost even the dark horse of that community sometimes, because there are people who alienate people who come out as bi and say that they just haven't made a choice. Sometimes even
That's
in
true.
the community, and
That's
it's hard,
true.
but it's fine. That's part of it being something that is you have to defend and help people understand. The United States can sometimes be a bit iffy about that, and I think they get more iffy the more that their stuff comes on too quickly, because they go like, no, and hang on really tight to some things. Other countries are a little bit easier at it because, not all of them, there's plenty that are worse than us. Plenty that are worse than us. But places like Sweden, I get why they can be so progressive about it because they never felt threatened by it.
Right.
It's not something that comes
Right.
from, us being Puritans that came over here and like a whole thing.
There's still a lingering cultural de
very much
facto
so.
thing that we have being uncomfortable with our bodies and our sexual expression. That's
Yeah.
still a problem that overwhelmingly blankets the American psyche,
Oh, and
I'm
just
afraid.
we also
Well,
like to blame victims of everything. We like to blame rape, everything. It's so hard. It's a weird thing about it, and it's
that's
another
kind of
reason.
an American thing.
It's very American. Unfortunately, it has a
Yeah.
lot to do
But
with
ba-
how
ba-
young women
back
are
to-
viewed, which I get. But
Back
to what we were talking about. Sorry.
That's okay.
Back
Okay.
to the trans conversation.
Yeah.
But the thing about Middle Earth fans, and even we just got a text from Hobbit fan 202 saying a girl saying I cosplay guy characters more than female characters, and there's a lot of that guys playing cosplaying.
One
as
of my
elves.
favorite characters is Desire from Neil Gaiman's books,
Yes,
who is
Desire.
constantly written
Yes.
as not just it's not a he, it's not a she. It's easy for me to call him he because one of my favorite books that the character is in, he is a he in it,
Yes.
but he actually is a morphing sexually character.
Yes.
So there
Yes.
are books where it was a she, there are books where it's a he, there's a book where it's he's neither. So it's really fascinating, and in fact, there's moments where he's referred to as a he, as a she, and it is meant to be morphing sexuality for a reason, because it is desire. You can't,
Exactly.
there's people desire many different things, so he is desire as, it's one of my favorite characters, and it's one I've cosplayed before a long time ago.
Oh, brilliant.
Before I was acting, before anything, because those are my favorite comic book characters ever written, are his Endless.
Yes.
And
from the Sandman. For the audience that doesn't know, that would be Neil Gaiman's ultimate triumph for the Sandman. Look it up.
Who has a recent hardcover version of this Sandman Chronicles, which you can get at Meltdown Comics.
Yeah.
Yes, that you can get.
Also, if you have kids, they have the little Endless storybook, which I love, which is not
Yes,
Neil, but is
yes.
based on the Endless, and it's so cute.
And by the way, the brand new Sandman number 2. Is it
came out
Overture?
tomorrow.
Is it Sandman Overture? Yeah. It's a month or two late, but it just came out. Thank you, Neil. I love you. Oh, he's bringing it. He's bringing it. He's
we
bringing it. I
got
love it. I love it. Yay, Neil Gaiman.
Oh, this will make him really happy.
Is this the alternative cover? Oh my God, I
That's
love it.
beautiful.
That's nuts. You know, when Vertigo branched off.
Give it to this camera.
When Vertigo branched off as the alternate imprint for DC Comics, that was the best thing they could have ever done. I loved it.
But that's what she was saying. I completely understand, and in fact, there's a lot of characters that are female characters that people cosplay that I don't have anything necessarily against, but because of whenever they came out, or even now, their costumes are so racy and lots of stuff's hanging out there. I don't want to do that.
One of the things we've noticed, because we did 14
That's why it's funny when men
conventions.
do it. That's why, again,
Yeah.
I find it really hilarious when men put on these costumes as the very sexualized female characters, because I'm like, ha, that's great. Because I wouldn't want to be walking around in that, so I thank you for doing that.
Well, you know, as we know, cross-dressing
Like
is
Chun-Li.
always funny.
I see a lot of male Chun-Li
Oh, yeah.
as well.
So you did Comic-Con last year? Oh, man.
I love it.
But what we noticed at all the conventions that we go to is that there's a lot of gender crossplay, cross-gender cosplay in the Tolkien fandom. And there's no judging going on.
Yeah, which is
and
great.
there's no like,
Never.
oh, she shouldn't
You
wear
know,
that, or he shouldn't be that. Like
The Ring
there-
sisters, they're triplets. The 3 Ring sisters who are very, very, very short women of a certain age, and they always show up in dwarf regalia or in some as male characters, male
Beards
hobbits.
and everything.
Beard,
Well,
okay, yeah,
I would
yeah.
want to be the Witch King of Agmar, but that's just because it's the coolest thing ever,
Yeah,
and I would love to play. But I get that. Like that's the thing is as well. It's
Well,
you know I can understand. I don't know why more fandoms are not okay with it. I know that there's quite a few that are, but there are a couple that don't.
A
like
lot
it.
aren't, and
Yeah.
it's very rare to have a community. Like you said, even in your San Francisco community, there's still little judging amongst the community and stuff like that.
I mean, not so
but-
much there, but in that community, like in the
that-
LGBT community
yeah.
sometimes, and it's just and I understand it. That's the thing is that there's no judgment from me on that because they're so brand new to people even trying to understand them that sometimes they can be defensive, and I get that.
Yes.
I completely understand
Certainly.
that. That's part of, you know. It's just it's a really interesting transitional period for pretty much every part of.
Yes.
Art, politics, everything is
It is.
transitioning right now, and over the next 10 years, it's going to be really interesting to watch.
We have a lot to
Art
talk about on
especially
that.
will be really, really
Yes.
fascinating.
Well, we're looking at a few minutes ago, looking at the insertion of Tauriel as a character, which you, Justin,
Okay.
you purport that the Tauriel, you purport.
You and your language.
Let's say posit. You have always posited that Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens are entirely responsible for the creation of this Tauriel character.
Yes, they
but,
are.
But if you go back to 1968, when Tolkien was still alive, he gave an American playwright the rights to make a stage play of The Hobbit. And she, in her right mind, realized I have no female characters to bring on stage, so she got around the problem by changing the gender of the Elven King. Thranduil ended up being the Elven Queen. And that is exactly how that character was represented. And if Tauriel was not created as a new female character, do you think that it's possible that Thranduil might have been gender changed for this new
I would
Hobbit?
hope not, because the
Do you
thing
think?
is I think it's important that it's a man.
It works
because
back then.
with Galadriel and then him, it's very important to also watch that they are so incredibly similar.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the thing about the elves is as well, is and I think it's one of the reasons, again, I wasn't attracted to Legolas, because he was not the kind of manly archetype I look for in men.
It was a fembot.
Yeah, I've dated women, I've dated men, and I separate them very much so in my mind. But that's the cool thing about the elves, is they are actually, there's things about them that are extremely feminine, there's things about them that are extremely masculine. But it was important, I also thought Galadriel, the way they portrayed her, was almost necessarily kind of above gender. She was
Yes.
a woman, she was seen as being very beautiful, but at the same time when she was angry, it was like, nope, you're not even a human. We need to remember they're not human.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
putting them in a gender role doesn't necessarily, I think it's important that we acknowledge there are two genders for them, but I don't think
Yes.
it's necessarily male and female, even though they're human. They're elves. They're not, they look like us, they act like us, but they're different.
They're not human. She's 7,000 years old, very, very powerful, and very strange. And she's burdened with a lot of history.
Well, that's the thing is, I can't
character.
even imagine, I was having this scientific kind of version of this conversation not that long ago about were we to make humans immortal, and population control aside.
No.
I know.
We can have a whole.
But
We could
I
have a whole
don't
show
think
about
we're very well
Yes.
suited to, unless you become very zen, unless you can suddenly put no stock in anything. One of the reasons I think it's so important to look at the elves and the humans as separate is because they are non-emotional for a reason. If you were too emotional all the time, but you were immortal, God, you'd probably kill yourself after the first 100, 200 years, because it's just too much even then,
Yeah.
let alone thousands of lifetimes.
Yeah.
Let alone being there until the stars fell. It was the sad but beautiful ending of Stardust was very similar as well, because she was
Yes.
immortal and he died, and then every night she'd go up and look at the stars until the universe died. It's that idea of that's a lot to handle, and humans aren't suited to it. So I do like that they separate them as elves. They're humanoid, but they're elves. They're not us. They never were us.
And they shouldn't be us.
No. I have that. The immortal birth thing, by the way, is so weird to me. They do it all the time in movies now, where it was like the Twilight baby thing, which I didn't read Twilight. I have no interest.
Star Wars.
Yeah, thank
But-
you, thank you.
Episode 1.
I had no interest in reading it. It was not my thing. But the concept of like these immortal babies that then so when do they stop growing? Like, what's the idea? Or why then would they not come out as full grown? I don't understand. It's just it's a whole thing that I'm like, y'all haven't really approached this yet. Or Aragorn being, half. I get why it was then. It's like his life is just elongated. He'll live very long, but he's not
Yes.
immortal.
Yes.
That makes sense, because then you would grow and grow old. It's just the immortal. How do elves have?
Well, actually, Professor Tolkien was asked about this when he was alive, and in his correspondences, in his letters, he actually said that their aging process would stop at around 33.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that would make sense. I would really not want to be 21 forever.
Yeah.
I would much rather be between the age. I would hate it. Or can you imagine? There's a really great book called Vamped. And it was about basically the idea that what if the vampires were all that was left? They killed off all the humans. It's only them. And then they all have to go back to having 9 to 5s. It's just night shift. But
Wasn't there a
does-
movie with...
That's fascinating.
no, they did Nightwalker, whatever it was, with Ethan Hawke. And it was not...
No. Okay.
Not the book. The
had
book was
its own
brilliant.
issues.
The book was brilliant, but oh god, now I lost my train of thought because I was thinking about the Ethan Hawke movie. Oh shoot! What were we talking about? Oh, that the vampires who were turned as children
Yes.
are just angry people, and they call them screamers and stuff because basically it's a 40-year-old trapped in a 5-year-old's body.
Yes.
How awful would that be? And they're talking about how most of them commit suicide because they can't imagine living
frustration.
forever as a 5-year-old.
In a child's body.
And it's awful.
Yeah.
I could not, if I had to live forever, I would really like to be of an age where it's I would never get carded again. It would never be I'm being sought out by awkward men who want 21. It's just, no. I would really prefer to be 35 or 40.
A lot of creatives can't even handle that on their professional side, and you'll love this. But look, best example I have is George Lucas. He did something when he was 20-something, and then he was the rest of his life. He's like, can't you do what you did when you were, that age? It's he did Star Wars and he got lucky. and he didn't even
Yeah, but
direct the rest of them.
let's not just say it got lucky. He was talented too.
was
And
talented.
he is
No,
talented
he's talented.
still.
Let's talk about
But you
American
evolve, you
Graffiti.
change.
He's a
Yeah, no, he's super talented. I know. But then American Graffiti, everything was he's
T-shirts.
really good. But then everybody.
Yeah, but
wanted
that's true of
Star Wars
everyone
the
though,
rest of
because
his life.
the one thing they fall in love with, and in fact the first thing they see you in is the first thing that comes to mind. Dad gets say nanu nanu all the time because of
Still?
Mork and Mindy. Oh yeah,
Still?
all the
The
time. Not
TV
from
show?
people my age, but because I can't tell you how many kids my age even knew that he started that way. But it's still like.
That's fascinating.
That's what people do.
I had
I
a
mean-
conversation with my boyfriend right before coming here to do the show, and I said, "Don't you remember Mork and Mindy?" And he said, "Nope,
Yeah.
never seen it."
And that's fine, but that's like when it is the first thing. Like for people my age, more often it's Mrs. Doubtfire or the Genie.
That's what he said. He said, "I've seen Mrs. Doubtfire,"
Yeah.
and that's the
So
only
when
thing.
it's the first thing that they know you for, then that's what they remember you for. It's not necessarily discrediting anything else that he's done. He's done really great things and things that I didn't enjoy too, but it's
Yeah.
still the first thing that comes to mind when I think
And
of
he's a
it.
regular shopper here at Meltdown Comics. We've seen
awesome.
him
I
catch a few.
I love the
comics.
movie where he played Armistead Maupin. I really enjoyed that. That was a very interesting departure. But what was most interesting, since we're on the subject,
Yeah.
was that he did this small and uncredited performance in The Adventures of Baron Munchausen.
Which is my favorite.
I love it.
The
Love
Adventures
it.
of
Love
Baron
it.
Munchausen
Love
is one of my
that.
favorite movies.
Love it, yeah. Terry Gilliam.
I love it so much.
Love it.
It's so great. Yeah, because he's in that as
King of the
Re
Moon.
di tutto.
Yeah.
Is what he's credited as, which
Yeah.
is like king of everything.
Yeah, king of- yeah, de tutto.
and he is not. But it is one of my favorite things. But I think that was, oh God, what's her name from Kill Bill? Her first movie.
That was Uma Thurman. Yeah, Uma Thurman
She was
coming out of
Venus
this,
in the half shell.
Venus is coming out of the shell as Venus. Yes.
Yeah, it was a very interesting,
Love that movie.
bizarre, interesting film, and I really enjoy it. But I've always loved those kinds of movies. It is escapism.
Terry Gilliam
I
at his
really,
best.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but also
Yeah.
films at their best are supposed to be something that could not be experienced or necessarily even written. It's art meets music meets costuming it's every form of what we consider to be art together. So when it's done well, it's awesome, and it doesn't at all even feel like our world. And that's the fun of it. I mean, you can lose yourself in books very easily. I know people, I can listen to certain songs and cry my eyes out, but
God, yes.
you know,
Yeah, me too.
laughter and films are two that will constantly be kind of separate because they are their own strange thing. It's the hardest thing in the world to make people laugh. It's very easy to make people cry. In movies especially, it's super easy to make people cry. But kill someone, give them cancer, you can give them a soundtrack that's really sad and something really bad happens and they can cry. Making people laugh is so hard.
Yes.
It's so hard.
True.
So that will constantly exist in its own realm. And then these films that are kind of perfect escapism. They might not win Oscars, but Oscars have very little to do with a film's enjoyment necessarily.
The one character that I think that made people cry the most in Lord of the Rings was Samwise. I mean, he had a speech at the end of every movie that was just like,
He had some great
Some of
speeches.
them made me laugh, but that was simply because I'm a little twisted.
how can you, what were you laughing at?
I don't know.
What, was it the
I'm
bit about
sorry,
I
that
don't
was
remember
a
the
great
taste of
story.
strawberries? Is that what it was?
No, so
I can carry you?
yeah, there were some of those moments that I was like, this is just too romantic, and I would laugh about that. And it's not in a bad way, I still love them, but I would still be like, oh, come on, just kiss already then. I'm like, I love some of those moments though where it was like, even like the witch, we're back to the Witch King again, the Witch King Vangmar being like, no
Yes.
man can kill me, and then them being like, bitch please, I'm a woman and a halfling, we're not man.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, so now you're doing the loopholes? Like this is a legal loophole document thing? Where it's like someone was
Said
like, let's
with
make,
force.
your death is a pun. I'm like, really?
Your
All right,
death is
cool.
a pun.
'Cause it was. It's like she's a woman. Oh, I'm not a man. Like there's a part of me that always laughed at that too, even though it's such a wonderful, epic moment. But it was still.
Did you like Miranda Otto's performance as Eowyn? Because see, some
I
fans
think
are
it was
still kind of,
overplayed for that reason. I am no man, you know.
Yeah, she
Well,
was
some
never
people-
my
I'll
favorite,
give you-
but again, it was never like I had anything against her. It was just she was also kind of made tertiary. She was the second choice. She was no one's first choice until she meets him at you know.
right,
So
right.
she was no one's first choice, so she's not even really mine. You know. So
I tell you what, I liked her performance very much, especially her singing.
she's super talented. That's
Yeah.
not even in question. She's
True,
just
true.
definitely not my
but
first choice.
there was something greatly missing in the Witch King sequence,
Mm-hmm.
and it was that famous dialogue from the book. You know, whether you be living or dark undead, I will smite you if you touch him. And that dialogue is the best dialogue that Tolkien ever wrote. It's not in the movie, and I've
I
always
think he has
missed
some
it.
wonderful examples. I do think that many of them are in monologues that get pushed aside, but
Yeah.
I do think that there were many examples of really great speeches because he was so good at those moments where, you know, there'd be some soaring soundtrack or none at all.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Rah!" and it's something really important, and then
Yes.
it's like, then it became its own catalyst, but via words, which very few writers did.
Yes.
You know, something happened, and then they speak about it. It was very rarely like, "I go into battle for you!" Rah!
The whole time.
You know, it's the Braveheart, like, you can take our land, but you can't take our freedom, and then they go. You know, it's like, that doesn't happen as much anymore. Now it's like, battle, and then we survived.
Well, the Return of the King animated telefilm that Rankin and Bass did, Rankin and Bass got the Eowyn dialogue correct.
Yes, but they're animated. It's so much easier for them to pick and choose. And then, you know, they get edited, but not really, because you're animating to what you've already written, and you have to, because it's
have to stick to
expensive.
it,
You have to stick to it.
Yeah.
It's very different.
You know, I want to ask, because you've obviously been surrounded by comedy and humor a long time. The cast of The Hobbit they hired a bunch of comedians. They've got Stephen Fry.
Oh,
they've
yes.
got, I mean, the whole cast is just littered, and now they've got Billy Connolly as Dane Ironfoot.
And of course,
And-
the Great
but I-
Goblin was Dame Edna, believe it or not. Barry Humphries, yes.
But I don't find myself laughing as much in the Hobbit films. Like, even Merry and Pippin were more funny and fun, and I laughed a lot more.
Here he
Yeah, but
goes.
that was also their friendship in that film was there as almost like the brevity of it. I mean, for quite a lot of it. There was also Gimli making a lot of jokes that I loved, and his weird, awkward chemistry thing with Legolas was fun. But, I mean, I don't know. I also think that some of the more unsettling moments in a lot of movies are when comedians do dramatic parts.
Yeah.
I enjoy comedians very much. I prefer them when they're playing creepy. Eddie Izzard is on Hannibal now, and he's wonderful. Hannibal is my favorite
Good.
TV show that's
Yeah.
on the air.
Mine too.
Yeah.
It's the best thing and I have a lot of friends who love True Detective, and I have a lot of friends who love Breaking Bad, and that's all well and good, and I've enjoyed them a lot. This is the one I love more than anything.
Hannibal
like, I
is
can't.
Kubrick on television.
Oh, it's so wonderful, and everything is right. Everything is right. Casting's right. Their cinematography is right.
Yeah.
Everything is right.
Even the fact that they hired a chef, like a 5-star, 3-star
To
Michelin
do the plates
chef,
for
to do
Mads.
the-
Yeah. No, but also Mads Mikkelsen is a person that I could watch reading. He's not reading his cooking list, which is ironic given it's Hannibal. But I mean, like, he's so fascinating to watch be silent. My favorite parts in Hannibal, for the most part, have been him even just having like mind chess matches with Jillian.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite moments, and they're so scary and they're
The
so
tension.
wonderful
What does she know? How much does she know?
because it's intelligent television. So I get.
What a rare commodity.
Oh, it's so wonderful.
Yeah.
But that's, you know, what we were discussing. I think that Eddie Izzard, who's, in my opinion, one of the best comedians, his stand-up just makes me die laughing.
Oh, yeah.
Him playing a quite megalomaniac, but also misled killer, who's very smart and very capable, is great, and it's very unsettling. And so I think a lot of times he hired a lot of these comedic people. And Billy Connolly, I mean, he is a comedian, but he's also,
he plays
his voice
angry
is so,
action
yeah,
very well.
Very well. Well, because he's got that big Scottish voice. I mean, he's good friends with my dad, and they used to hang out and, you know, shoot the shit all the time and just talk. And he's so fascinating to even hear talk. His voice is so
I do.
intense.
Yes.
It is. I'm grateful I grew up around those accents, because now I have friends who can't understand a word of it, but I get it all because I grew up with Brits and Scots and all these people. But he's not easy to understand either. So.
No, that's why I'm pretty excited for him being like the dwarf of all dwarves in the third Hobbit movie. Like,
Oh, it makes
coming in
sense
on
too. He grows more facial hair than anyone other than my dad. Like, they grow beards like nothing I've ever seen. So
And him riding into what's he come in on a war
A
pig?
wild boar. He rides into battle
A
with
war
a wild
pig.
boar.
You have no idea. This is going to be the movie.
by the way, did you guys see 47 Ronin?
No.
No.
Okay. I wish you had, because I wanted to discuss parallels with Princess Mononoke.
Oh.
There are quite a few. It's
Oh,
not a-
That's
okay.
that
He knows nothing about Miyazaki, and I'm the
Really?
hardcore
Not a
Miyazaki
big
fan.
Have you seen Princess Mononoke?
I have.
You didn't like it?
It was good.
You have.
Well, I won't argue for it if you don't like
We've
it.
had
but
many
it's
a
not- yeah.
dialogue. We've had many a
Many a
dialogue.
Well, the
dialogue.
good thing about all of this is it's all subjective. You can like it, you can dislike it. There's plenty of TV shows that I have friends who worship, and I'm like, it's fun.
People unfriended me on Facebook because I didn't like Miyazaki.
Oh, well, you are speaking to, as someone who's trying to speak for an entire group of people as a nerd
Yes.
culture, so that's bound to happen.
Yeah.
People get mad at me all the time because if I express an opinion about certain video games, they're like, you were paid to do that. And I'm like, why would Nintendo have ever paid me to support other video games? I'm like, I have full moments where I'm like, you do realize I did those ads like 4 years ago. You get paid to do the ads.
And it was
I'm not
like
like a
one set of
spokesperson
ads.
for
That's
them.
it,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
like 3 ads. And then I did their concerts, but I actually did that for fun.
Yeah.
They asked me because they were like, this is fun, and they'd probably get a kick out of you doing it. So I went, oh, yeah, sure, why not? So I did that, and then everyone was like, oh, you're getting paid to promote all their stuff. And I was like, I own every system. I hope you know this. It's like I'm one of those that's a rabid fan and has like the N64 next to the Wii U, next to the Wii, next to the Xbox One, next to the Xbox 360, next to PlayStation. I speak about video games becoming such a big deal because I know
Yes.
I care about them more often than not, and play them and watch them more often than I usually watch movies.
Do you think that's a gender conversation that is happening when people say, what do you know about games? They just paid you?
No, I think that has to do more with them also assuming actors don't have their own opinions or shouldn't have their own opinions or whatever the case may be. I don't know what it is. They're like, they say some really interesting stuff. Twitter is also not a great example of anyone having good conversations. But I have met really wonderful people and very interesting minds and had great conversations even when we disagree on stuff, politically especially. But I would get a lot of flack in the same way that I do for supporting video games they didn't think I was getting paid for. I don't even know, their train of thought was always confusing to me. But they're sitting here going, well, you're not even famous, why would we care? I was like, why would you care more if I was famous?
Right.
I'm stating a political opinion because this is my personal Twitter, and
Yes.
it's what I believe. You can disagree with me, I'm completely fine with that. If anything, my biggest thing is I peacefully disagree with everyone. I mean, not everyone, but if I'm going to disagree with you, I do it peacefully.
Are you a contrarian at heart? Do you
No.
think? No? That's good.
No.
That's good.
Well, we've had a lot.
I like discussing every angle because
Yeah.
I like covering every angle, but I'm
Yeah,
not the
definitely.
person who's like, this is the angle you all hate.
Well,
It's mine.
I'm dying to hear your thoughts about Princess Mononoke because I know that story intimately.
Yeah.
But having not seen 47 Ronin, I was warned off of that
It
film.
was fun and strange. I didn't expect it to be good, so it's easy to have your expectations exceeded. It's
Yes.
not a great film by any standard, but it's fun.
Right. I heard it was a
It's
mess.
silly and fun. Oh, it is a mess, but
Is
a
it?
lot of movies are messes, and this was
Yeah.
at least a pretty mess.
Well, like
I can enjoy a pretty mess, as we've discussed. You know,
like David Lynch's Dune. I mean, it's a mess, but I still love it. even
yeah,
though
but
it's a
Dune is
total mess.
also so much more lovable too, because it's cheesy in retrospect. It's like fun and
Yeah.
cheesy
Yeah.
looking back on it. I don't know. It's fun. It's just always it's always interesting to see how that's all changing and how people opinions are now starting to be both respected, and the fact that anyone has an opinion people don't like. It's
Yeah.
troll culture. It's board culture. You know, it's all of these different things are now allowing people to have an audience that previously they wouldn't have had. Allows them to talk to people that are either like-minded or contrary. And state their opinions, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not. But it is. I'll be interested to see what people say on here, because it is a conversation.
Yeah, well,
Like if they find me on Twitter later, I deleted Twitter off my phone, so you'll have to wait a bit. I had to do it. It's too addicting. I couldn't have it on my phone anymore. But you guys can always talk to me later and ask me questions. I'd love to.
Everybody in the chat room has been like, I really like her. She needs to come back more.
Yes.
Well, I live nearby, so you guys can always have me back. When the next one comes back,
Okay.
when the next movie comes out, I'll come back and we'll talk about if 2 worked.
I've been hearing rumors about the script of There and Back Again, and because so many things in Desolation of Smaug diverge from Tolkien, you all might be glad to hear that there are some moments in There and Back Again that come right back to the books, right back to Tolkien.
I would say be careful with the rumors about scripts, though, because so much changes even on a day-to-day
Yeah, we
basis.
know.
Yeah, and
So much.
they're going
Well,
back to
that-
do pickups. They're shooting
Yeah.
more, so
And
yeah.
the Legolas love point of the triangle didn't exist until reshoots.
Yeah.
And we know that.
Well, it's like the same thing
Really?
with World War Z was a book I
Yeah.
very much loved, and they shot the movie very much like the book.
Yeah.
And then
it
studio heads being studio heads were like, oh, this isn't what we paid for. We paid for an action horror zombie movie. So they had to go reshoot like 80% of that movie.
Really?
Change
So
the
when the
whole
initial
ending,
rumors
whole
were
new
about how intelligent it was and how great it was, and then
Yeah.
it came out, and I still enjoyed it. I love those kinds of movies. It's
Yeah.
still fun. Their special effects were great. But knowing that there was like an entirely separate movie that was shot that'll never see the light of day because it was the book and not the movie, it's just... And that's in no way Lord of the
it'll come
Rings.
out.
World War Z is not Lord of the Rings. It was a fascinating scientific
But-
philosophy thing.
Lord of the Rings.
Interesting, interesting.
World War Z was Brad Pitt's highest-grossing movie of his career.
Yeah.
And
But
they're
then again, they
doing more.
also spent unbelievable sums on it. But it's just...
And if Blade Runner is any example, we will see it, and we'll see every
I
version.
sincerely
of
hope
that
they
edit.
stop trying to... I've been hearing rumblings they want to remake Blade Runner.
Oh, no, no,
Which,
no, no, no,
no.
no, no.
Don't
No.
touch it. Please don't
Did you
touch
learn
it.
from Prometheus?
It's happening.
Is
Really?
I
it?
know.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
Is Mr. Ridley Scott involved in any way?
Yeah, he's going to be involved because they're paying him.
Yeah.
Pardon my French. You know,
And look, Prometheus had its own problems.
yeah.
Many of them having to do with like the whole philosophical thing where I'm like, why would they spend thousands of years doing all this stuff and fostering us to get us to make our own space travel and then go to be massacred on their planet? And so, I know.
Yeah.
I was like, either these are like the most twistedly vengeful birth aliens of whatever we are, or they're like
They
just,
want
yeah.
us to discover
I don't understand. It was
And
the moments.
then-
And also, by the way, her running away from
Running
the
away
ship.
from
Oh,
the
yeah.
ship.
I
Yeah.
just never understood the running away in the path of something coming at you. It reminds me of wildebeest in Africa. I spent a bunch of time there, and
Yes.
you'd be driving your car, and you'd be in an open field, and they'd all run away from you in front of your car.
In front of you.
And then all it took was Numi Rapace rolling 3 times, and she was out. She was safe.
Yeah, yeah,
And I was like,
yeah.
y'all just ran like half a mile in the path of a falling donut ship. And you didn't think, I'm going to go this way.
I'm gonna turn left.
It'll be fine. I'm going to, right turn.
Yeah, exactly.
I just
Hollywood
didn't,
running.
Hey,
Oh,
you know,
no.
well, Mr. Ridley Scott, just the chance to have Blade Runner remade by someone else might be intriguing to Mr. Scott.
Sure.
Maybe personally, he's like thinking,
can't they call it something else?
yeah, can't they call it something else?
Can't they just make more original, wonderful sci-fi? Can't they just make more?
Why don't they just
Can't
call
they go,
it-
let's invest all of our wonderful creative minds into
Yes.
making new ones?
How about that?
I
How
don't
about
think
that?
it's good. He doesn't believe me, but I can almost guarantee that we're going to see a special edition, extended edition, Lord of the Rings at some point. Peter Jackson's going to go back like George Lucas.
He thinks that clip of Bilbo is, as Ian Holmes, going to be replaced by Martin Freeman in that opening 7 minutes
I don't
of
know
Fellowship
about
of the
that,
Ring.
but
You know.
Well, what are they gonna? When would they do it? And how are they gonna get all of their cast back? And like, I mean,
Yeah.
look, not
It's a
all of them are
paycheck
working
away.
that much, but they're also much older looking. And I get that CGI can fix all of that.
They even
Tron
use-
is a good example of when they shouldn't do that.
Right.
But I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just I want them to start, if they're going to start adapting great books, then go to ones that haven't already been adapted. Like do stuff, the
What's
young
left?
adult novel stuff. There's lots. That's the funny thing about it is I get mad at the whole like Hunger Games trend where now they're buying books before they're even released, saying they're going to be the next big thing. It's going to be the next Hunger Games, and I'm like, young adult novels were not initially necessarily written for young adults. They were written about young adults.
Right.
And there's quite a
That's
lot
the
of them
difference.
that are not these stories that are wonderful. They have big fan bases that came out in the 90s that nobody's making, and I don't understand why, because if anything, they actually even have a fan base that can pay for their own movie tickets and go out and see these movies. They don't need to go with their parents. You can make them more bloody. You can make them more epic.
Yeah.
And the Hunger Games is Battle Royale anyhow, and I loved those movies more.
Totally.
I know there's a lot of people who disagree with me, and that's fine.
No
I enjoy
way.
them just fine. Well, a lot of people didn't read the book. That book is one of my favorite books
Yeah.
ever. It's so timely even now.
Beep, beep.
Beep, beep.
Are we running out of
Out
tape?
of battery on the big one?
Out of battery? Out of tape?
Battery, yeah.
Oh, no.
Who uses tape anymore?
So wide on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, hey, hello there.
Now we're over here.
Now we're over here.
Hi, Chris. How are you doing, buddy?
The cable for this one.
Huh?
Technical
It's upstairs.
difficulties.
That's not
We're live.
not the
No,
first
it's-
time
we're
we've had
here.
technical problems.
Hello.
Oh, that's why we're live.
It's one of my favorite books ever written, and it's very timely even now.
Hunger Games.
No, Battle
Battle
Royale.
Royale.
Yeah.
Battle Royale, and the movies are fun too. Those were more like goofy and silly, but the book the book Battle Royale, because I'm not even, let's avoid the adaptation talk for now. The book of Battle Royale and the book of Hunger Games and where these things come from, before they get reinterpreted and all this stuff, there's a different, better version. And it doesn't mean you can't enjoy the Hunger Games. I prefer Battle Royale. So I just wish that they would start approaching, why not make Battle Royale? Oh yeah, wait, because it's 13-year-olds killing each other and they don't think the American public wants to see it. Every time they've brought something that they thought was too edgy to us, everyone eats it up.
Yeah, we can take it.
True.
We can all take it. Also, I can't tell you, I swear less than some 13-year-olds I know. And you really think that they are going to prefer a PG rating on their movies? No. They need to fix the rating system's its own political screw-up.
Yes.
They do so much BS with that system.
Yes, they do.
And the things that get pushed aside, like problems with nudity, again, what we were discussing, us being afraid of nudity, us being afraid of swear words, us being, this whole thing doesn't really make sense. And when you look at artistic things, if you're of an age of like 16, you should be able to go see whatever you want. You're 16. I just don't understand why we keep babying them. So there are a lot of things that I think, and I hope that they start approaching soon, as opposed to remaking things that we already love. Because that's all well and good, and I just feel that'll still be fun, but there's so much more they haven't approached yet. Why go in the same circle over and over again?
They're just going to keep going more toward all the comic movies and Star Wars.
Yeah, sure, and that's fun.
In the high stakes, high risk world of making a big budget film, they're always
Well, and I think it makes them more of a sure bet, because if people are already aware of it. When they made I Am Legend, even though it was more Omega Man than it was Richard Matheson's story, it was still a fun movie, but they shouldn't have called it I Am Legend.
Yes.
It was Omega Man. It was not I Am Legend.
Exactly.
I Am Legend was a really, really wonderfully written short story where it should have been someone like Philip Seymour Hoffman going quietly insane in his own home.
Yes.
That's if that movie were done well.
Yes.
It's still a fun movie. It just, they used that title. I don't even know why. It's Richard Matheson fans weren't looking for an action film. They love their stories the way they are.
I wonder if the director Francis Lawrence was behind that. I mean, Francis Lawrence did a really, really good job with Constantine, even though that did aggravate a lot of DC Comics fans, saying, how the hell can you take John Constantine and put him in Keanu Reeves and have him live in L.A.?
Well, that's like, it scares people more than anything that Cowboy Bebop Spike might be Keanu as well.
Oh, God, well...
I know, that's a whole other thing. I was hoping that adaptation got done, by the way, while I was still super young, because I wanted to be... You know who I wanted to be.
Yeah.
You know, I was never going to be Valentine, no. But you know who I would have loved to be. And so it's sad that now I'm too old, but I'm still excited to see it. But it's just hard. Like, I Am Legend didn't even really harken back to the story that much. I mean, the dog was now his like only. It didn't make sense. It didn't. I Am Legend was also the final words in the short, and were never uttered in the movie, and it was a whole.
And it was never even mentioned.
Doesn't make sense. They just made it sounded like a really masculine title.
Yeah, when you stop and look at a creative person like Francis Lawrence, you wonder how much studio interference he's getting.
A lot, I'm sure.
Hell of a lot.
There's never one person usually to pin stuff on. There's not.
Yeah.
It's easy for the American public who don't have anything to do with Hollywood to think that. And the sad thing is, a lot of times, the person who is the least seen, the screenwriter, gets most of the blame. When they really, once they hand in their scripts, they don't have that much control over it. And so it's really hard, because there are a lot of screenplays that were some of the best things I'd ever read that get turned into these terrible movies, and they blamed the screenwriter when the director went, no, let's make this character this now, and this, and changed it completely. There are way too many heads on this dragon, and there's a lot of people to blame when stuff goes wrong. But I just wish that instead of...
Like Thorn in a wheelbarrow. Ooh! Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen.
If they're going to start approaching these properties, they should start, instead of reinventing the same wheel over and over again, go to similar things and try and give us something more. Give us like they're talking about how many X-Men movies they're going to make. I love X-Men so much, and by the way, I'm such a huge Fassbender fan. I'm very happy with my new adaptations. I love them very much.
They're great.
But, you know, if they want to make something similar, even though it doesn't have a big audience, why not make Gen 13? It's hilarious. One of my favorite, the original, not the new form version. Gen 13, they've been trying to make some of the comic books that were similar to that. It's not Young Avengers. What one were they talking about making recently? With arsenic and old lace. Why can't I think of it?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. She has a velociraptor for a pet.
I know.
Runaways, the Runaways.
Runaways.
They were going to make the Runaways, which you kind of wonder if then they're going to find the like bad Joan Jett movie or what's going on. Like, I don't know how they're going to deal with the titles of that. But it'll be interesting to see. I just wish they would spread their wings a little bit more and be a little bit more adventurous.
Yeah.
It's why I did like
think
World
they're
War Z,
starting to do
despite
that.
but that's what I mean. It's like a 10-year process.
Yeah.
Hollywood does not change very quickly, and it does not change really for anyone else. Because
That's
even
true.
though they're making these for other people to watch, they still mainly it's their opinions of what we want to watch.
I
They
think
need to
Guardians of
listen
the
more.
Galaxy will determine how far audiences are willing
True.
to watch.
Well, and I think it's
characters they
also a
don't
great
know.
choice with that because when it's funny, but there's a lot of action. People who don't know the comic, because it's not a comic, a lot of people know, will go see it because it's funny, but there's action. It's the whole thing with Transformers.
Yes.
That worked because of that.
Still
They
made
don't
$1
acknowledge
billion.
it that often. Yeah, it made so much money, and it's a friggin' toy. Yeah. It's like that's
Yeah.
when they're trying to make Ouija now, and I'm like, I don't know about that.
Yeah,
But there are properties that will make sense for them to do, even though it doesn't have the built-in audience they think guarantees them this certain opening weekend. They think it guarantees them 100 million opening weekend. There are no real guarantees, except for with these properties like Lord of the Rings, like
Yes.
Harry Potter,
Mm-hmm.
some of the Bible movies. I mean, then you're guaranteed because it's like a...
Look, Aronofsky's
Written
Noah. Look at what happened with Noah here.
Yeah, Noah's its own weird thing.
That is,
it's its own unique.
I don't know what to make of that.
Well, I'm surprised Aronofsky even bothered to do it, but here, this is what's interesting to me.
I'm not. He can kind of be contrary in his own right. I think
Yeah?
and I don't know if he's religious or not, but I think he was like, well, it's a big movie, it's a big budget, they're paying me a lot, and I can make people talk about
and
stuff.
I got
Yeah.
Emma Watson and Russell Crowe.
The Harry Potter universe was the biggest moneymaker that Warner Brothers had shaking in their tree until the green light was lit on The Hobbit, as we all know.
Yeah.
But the prospect of having no more Harry Potter movies bothers everyone from the top down. Joanne Rowling is like, sure, let's make some other movies in the wizarding world of Harry Potter, even though they're not direct from my source books. So now we've got more Harry Potter films to look forward to, but they're not technically HP.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
I
happening.
mean, and a lot of writers have done that previously, even when their works haven't been adapted. Like
Yeah.
the Garth Nix trilogy I was talking about earlier, he made Outside the Wall or Beyond the Wall, which was like a collection of other stories. J.K. did her book of like monsters and things
Yeah.
as well.
Yes, yes.
Even though that's not a story, it's really fun. It's like an encyclopedia of
I love
magic,
it.
and that's fun.
Yeah. The Tales of Beetle the Bard is a fun little book.
Yeah,
I love it.
It's not what the kids connected to like Harry Potter, so I can understand why it's like a separate thing. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Your theory about them making more Lord of the Rings scenes is entirely plausible and would make sense. They'd make a lot of money doing it. I just don't know how they would or why they would.
He wants to have another reason to accuse Peter Jackson of morphing into George Lucas. That's what he wants.
He used to do George Lucas.
You're not the first person to say so. Even in the Washington Post and other major trades and magazines, they've actually
Yeah, but
said
there's so many people,
that.
especially now with big movies only getting greenlit because they're thinking they're going to make all this money. There's so many new George Lucases, if that's the case. But if anything, you can call them capitalists and leave it at that. I mean, it's like J.J. Abrams is now in charge of Star Wars and Star Trek, and like,
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
the interesting thing there is that when we were talking about this the other week, that when George Lucas handed over the keys to the kingdom and said, "Hey, you take it from here. I'm out." He gave it to Kathleen Kennedy, a
Yes.
woman. So she's one of the few female studio heads, and she's got a hand, a strong hand in everything to do with Star Wars.
Yeah, bless her.
So
Yes.
do you think it was a conscious decision to like give it to a woman? I mean, George Lucas could have given it to anybody.
well, that's the point is he can give it to anybody, so it doesn't matter if it's a woman. If it's the person he thought was the best, that's the thing that that's why I think feminists still exist, because there is still that differentiation where they're like, he gave it to a woman. I'm like, she's a studio head. She's obviously capable. So why does it really matter that she's a woman? And that's the difference between that there being inequalities in certain things. I'm sure it was a conscious decision because he gave it to someone. Therefore, he had to make a conscious decision to give the keys to the kingdom to someone. I don't know, it's all very interesting. I talk about this a lot with a lot of my friends here who are actors and writers and directors about this new regime that will inevitably take over in the next 5, 10, 15 years in Hollywood, because age will take out some of them, and they'll retire.
Yes.
And video games will take out others. They'll be pushed aside by these new young people that can get this money that these studio backers want. So studio heads will have to be, it's a big regime change. It'll happen.
It
It
already
already is
happened in
happening.
the literary world. I mean, if you look
JJ is
at,
practically his own studio now.
Oh,
It's
yes.
not even that he's the director. It's not even that he's the new George Lucas. He's the new Warner Brothers. He is Bad Robot is its own studio force now.
That's
The fact that it as a studio that previously to some of the movies he's done, previously to Star Trek and stuff like that, it was still like it's a production company. It's now a studio. There's it might not have the lot like Paramount. It might not have these things. Who's to say it won't soon?
it was the same with Legendary.
Indeed,
You know,
indeed.
that once upon a time, they're just financiers. No,
Yeah.
but Legendary made.
Things evolve, things change. JJ has become his own studio head. He's just also a director, and he's also a producer. And it speaks to him also being pretty much one of the biggest supporters of what was previously considered genre culture. He actively has tried to pursue making science fiction and fantasy and these things not considered genre before. Previously, if you tried to sell a genre script in Hollywood that didn't have anything harkening, they were like, excuse me? Nobody wants to see this. You can go make it for $100,000 in your basement. You know, they didn't believe in genre having any pull. He's been enormously orchestral in that happening. Just like George was. Star Wars and that whole thing, that's been orchestral, and them being reminded these are not a niche. It's not a niche market anymore. Because it's not. Fantasy and science fiction have never been a niche market. They've just been taking decades to convince otherwise. It's changing. It's going to change. It has to change, or they won't keep up. They're not making the money they used to. They're spending more than they ever have before and not making the kind of percentage returns in most cases. And Avatar being a really high-grossing film, Star Trek, all of the high-grossing movies right now are arguably nerd culture and children films. They're not niche anymore. So
But
they have to reevaluate everything. They're going to have to give some people Oscars for great performances in sci-fi movies and stuff like that. They haven't. They've been avoiding it forever. They will. They have to. It doesn't make sense otherwise. They're not keeping up.
Totally. And
I agree.
And Andy Serkis
I
is
agree.
like directing a couple of films now.
Yeah, Andy Serkis just got handed the Jungle Book.
Yes. Two Jungle Books happening at the same time. One from Swingers.
To direct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's going to have to use an enormous amount of motion capture actors, and he, more than anyone, will understand what that's like.
Yeah. Well,
Because he's been one.
Jon Favreau doing a competing Jungle Book at the same time that Andy Serkis is going to be doing his own Jungle Book.
Yeah,
That's very interesting. It's like the two Snow Whites that happened at the same time. Mirror,
God.
Mirror, and Snow White and the Huntsman. That
I'm
seems
really
to be
excited to see the French Beauty and the Beast, because that looks really visually
it.
stunning.
Ooh, yeah,
But
yeah.
it's just really fascinating, and
The thing I like about that, what you were saying earlier about the video games will become a part of this, is that Avatar is a good example. Lana and her brother Wachowski trying to do that with The Matrix, where they did Enter the Matrix, the video game. They did the animes.
most of the time when you do the video games as secondary, they suck.
Yeah.
People that love video games know it. They just generally avoid them. There's a couple examples that are okay. Spider-Man's playable. Like it's just,
Yeah.
but they're not great because they were the second thought, and video games cannot be the secondary thought.
No, they
That's
they
true.
can
They
be
take
a
so much longer.
complementary
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
the main story.
that's
And
right.
Well,
Avatar-
he's brilliant in that sense. I have a mixed love for James Cameron in a lot of ways, but the best thing he did was, surprisingly, and no one else would probably say this out loud because it is kind of embarrassing to admit, making them blue cat people was the best thing he did, because then you don't have to deal with the uncanny valley. They were so bizarre. And so, I mean, and there's
just that elongated
there were moments
enough.
that were so racist that I can't even begin to approach, but because they're blue cat people, you can
was
go,
fine.
all right, fine. But it's like, I still get mad at him, like the fact that pretty much all the actors that played the aliens were black, and they're playing
Indian,
tribal and
and-
Indian,
yeah.
and I was like,
Yeah.
they're blue cat people. You couldn't hire
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but
my
yeah.
problems aside, that was a brilliant move.
And
for a
he's
reason.
doing everything that we were just talking about, which is he's doing the MMO video game. He's
Yeah.
building Avatar Land at Disney World
Yeah.
with Home Tree and things
Yeah.
like that. Plus
Yeah.
the 3 sequels that Weta is doing after The Hobbit.
It's a big job. for them.
I wish that there were some way to get Leica, who does Coraline
Oh, yes,
and the
Leica.
Box Trolls,
And Paranorman.
to make yes.
Yes.
They have, for me, become this new kind of, I've always loved motion capture. I know how time-consuming it is. I know how difficult and expensive it is, but it makes such beautiful movies. I hope it's never an art that goes away.
You mean
ever,
stop
ever.
motion?
Yes, stop motion,
yeah,
thank you.
yeah. I agree with you.
I hope it never goes away, because like I'm one of those that every day on Twitter when they release a new Box Trolls one, I'm like, I want to see it now. Give it to me now. I want it now, because I'm so excited for those
They're
movies.
great.
And they have such warmth and depth to them because they
Yes.
aren't CGI. I don't know how to. It's that same thing. Is
I'm
those
really-
kind of games? I hope at some point they make video games that are almost motion capture. I know
Yeah.
that would be impossible, but not necessarily. You could image map
Yes.
the puppets and do the little Big World is kind of almost
Oh, yeah,
almost
yeah.
motion
Almost like
capture,
that.
almost
You're
stop
Do
motion.
you know how many conversations I had with people about Paranorman? They thought it was CGI.
No,
So
yeah,
many
because
people, I had to
it's so
tell them,
beautifully
no,
done.
these are
And they
stop-motion
do
puppets.
smooth it. That's not to say that there aren't CGI moments in it, but they're so tiny.
Sure.
It's removing the thing that's holding him in place.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
You know, in Coraline, when the world goes white,
Yes.
they kept going, "Oh, that's CGI." I'm like, no, have you not seen their sets? They're amazing, and they would remove it's lit from underneath, and there's
And they just
plastic,
blow
and
the-
Yeah.
or like the trees that were lit up in Coraline. All of that existed. I saw that.
That's great.
And
Neil has the toys, and they're unbelievable, and he has all these pieces, and the trees were made out of
cool.
popcorn kernels that were individually painted pink, and it's like a whole crazy thing that
I love it.
there's a part of me that's just wants to live in those miniature worlds because they pay so much detail to them. So I think it's why these video games will stop being the second thought. They'll be the first thought, and then maybe they'll release a film in conjunction with it with the actors who were in the video game. But you can spot your favorite actors in a lot of video games now. It's
Yes.
not hard.
The name
That's true.
is Onway says Zelda's making a lot of sense now. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Did I not make sense originally? I'm sorry.
no, like it's saying a lot of stuff that makes total sense! Exclamation point.
Yes.
Yes, nice one, Zelda.
I should be looking at the
Well,
interesting
come find me
comments
on
we're
Twitter,
getting.
guys, and we can talk
Yes.
more because I actually really enjoy it, and I like interacting with people. I'm in no way
is it that
opposed
easy,
to it.
Zelda Williams?
Yeah, it's just my name.
Are
It's just
you-
at
are
Zelda
you-
Williams.
You do anything else? Instagram or anything?
I have an Instagram, but it's pretty boring. It's literally pictures of like my dogs.
Yeah.
And if I have a magazine article come out, I make self-deprecating comments about the pictures in it, being like, "I'm not wearing much clothing. This is probably demeaning, but you have to read this because they want me to." Like, you know, it's silly and goofy, but Twitter I really do enjoy.
Did you get that? And you were only on a couple episodes of
Teen Wolf, but I'm not dead, so they're really fun people, and I enjoy them a lot. So it's entirely possible I'll
That's
come back.
cool.
I've done 2 now, but
I heard that show's fun to work on.
oh, it's a blast. They're the best people in the world. They're literally the nicest. I'd never done TV before. I've only ever done indie films and like really screwed up. I've played a lot of addicts and lesbians and like really, really dark characters. And then they brought me on that show because it's just such a fun family. And I actually knew half the cast before I even booked the part. And they didn't know I was going to do it. So I walked on set and there were 6 of my guy friends who were like, "What are you doing here?" So it was fun. But I actually, recently I got signed as a writer-director, and so now I'm doing my own stuff potentially for the next, and it's been really fun. I wrote one about Comic-Con that you guys are gonna, I think, have a lot of fun with. I can't talk much about because now it's you have to keep it to
Hollywood
yourself.
secret.
Oh, cool.
No, it's fun though, and Comic-Con's changing a lot. It has been for years, but I've been going.
Oh,
I've never
yes.
been invited to Comic-Con. I've never done it for promotion. I go because I love it.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to write kind of a love letter to Comic-Con. It's like a goofy, fun movie that takes place at Comic-Con, and it's very fun to finally get to tell those stories because as an actor, I mean, people give them a lot more credit than they even deserve sometimes for the power they have in this industry. They don't really. You don't really get a lot of say in anything. You don't even get a say if you're, especially for actresses. It's true of men too, though. When you start out, you could be the best person they see, but if you're not blonde or if you remind them of their ex-girlfriend or things like that, you cannot get a job sometimes that way. And so we don't have a lot of power. It's the people that get to tell the stories and write the stories. The actors are basically just the pretty puppet in a story. And it's a wonderful job, and there's no complaints from me on that. It's so much fun when you get to do it, but there's no real creative vein to it. And so if I end up being able to do this, I would much prefer it. I like creative. I like creating. And you don't get to create that much when you're an
And we
actor.
find that with
Indeed.
inside the Tolkien community as we wrap it up here. But
Yeah.
you know, even at the premiere of The Hobbit, Desolation, here in Hollywood. There were families and fans from around the world. And, we talked to this wonderful family, a couple 10-year-old girls that drove in from Ontario. Their mom drove them in. And she was crying. She was like, I just got their signature, and I just shook their hand and gave me a hug. And she opened her book, and, it was signed by Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman. And she points to Philippa Boyan's autograph. She's like, she makes me want to be a writer.
Well, and I became an actor because of the books I loved. So I think it's, my mom makes fun of me all the time now because she's like, you really couldn't have figured out that you should have been writing instead of in this terrible industry until now. But you can do both. It's not, in no way cheapening to acting as well. But I didn't become an actress because I loved movies, which is the funny thing about it. I loved movies after I became an actress. I started watching more movies after I had to understand this process and stuff. When you grew up on sets, there was no real interest necessarily in movies being the drive to do it. It's because I could have potentially played characters I grew up loving in books. All of my favorite books, there were women in it that I would have loved to play. And that's why I became an actress. And so now that I get to become a writer, instead, when I always wrote and I just never showed anyone anything I did, it's a very wonderfully welcoming community. It's one of the great things about filmmakers as well, that like what you were saying about her loving her favorite writer. I have only ever had like 1 or 2 fangirl moments where I didn't know what to say and freaked out. And thankfully now, one of them is now a very dear friend of mine, and I'm so grateful for it because I'm sure I looked like a complete and utter nerd. But I was at a party and I was gonna leave. I hated it. It was some Hollywood agency, I think for an agency I used to be at or something. And I wanted to leave, and so did the person who I ended up getting introduced to, and his agent was like, no, wait, don't go. I was trying to find a last-ditch reason to get him to stay. So he grabbed me, because that agent used to be my mother's, I think, literary agent for her production jobs, pulled me over and went, Neil, this is Zelda. And it was Neil Gaiman, and I ironically I was wearing an Ankh that night, it was I was in all black, and I think I was 17. And so at that time, it was even more crazy for me, and I just went, I'm your biggest fan. Oh my God. And he was like, what are you talking about? And we got past that, and thankfully then we ended up talking for 4 hours, and now he's been so wonderfully, he was so happy to hear that now I've kind of moved to writing a lot more too, because it's it is a very creative world. I hope that there's more writing programs that support kids in writing too, because if I hadn't read so many great books like Lord of the Rings, if I hadn't been introduced to that, and then if I used to create boards on Avid Gamers just to RPG with people online.
Nice.
I used to if I hadn't had that, I wouldn't write now. I wouldn't have become a writer at all, because loving those books so much that I wanted to interact with other people as those characters. I was on a Harry Potter Avid Gamers board. I was on a whole bunch of them. I was on a Lord of the Rings board. And this was when I was 14, but that's writing, that's these parts of it, and they're very important. And I hope that more people, even if they didn't read the books before they saw the movies, so they don't really care if the movies stray from the books, that's okay. Go read the books, enjoy them. It's the same thing. Game of Thrones, even if they stray from the books, it doesn't matter. Go read the books, enjoy the fact that it could drag anyone.
It's a new experience.
We should be enjoying the fact that more people love them like we do now.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a great thing. I just wish they also did it with more great books too, because I don't want, it's funny to me when it's 50 Shades of Grey. I'm I really hope that doesn't bring more people to read that book, because I didn't,
It started off as a fanfic.
Which is great. It's nothing against fanfic, that. Yeah. I personally didn't enjoy it at all. And that, it was also more so because of the relationship that's portrayed. I have friends who are dominatrixes, and I know that world somewhat well. And it portrays more of an abusive relationship in my mind, but that's okay. I just wish it was more epic books like Lord of the Rings that I think people should read before they die. I think I want to tell people, put this on your book bucket list. There are certain books that I think people need to read. So it's great even if they didn't read them first. If the movie comes out.
Yes. That's why I think it's important that the Tolkien estate is releasing new work from him. We had The Fall of Arthur last year. We've got his version of Beowulf, Tolkien's translation of Beowulf coming out in a few weeks.
And The Children of Hurin was a huge success from a couple of years ago, because no one thought that any of that early Silmarillion stuff would come back.
Yeah.
You know, and here, thank you, Christopher Tolkien. You
And
know,
it's just as relevant today. It's like it was written for modern audiences.
Yeah.
well, you
Well,
know,
some of the best things are. They're not written looking at 100 years from then when they were written. It's just when they're relevant to humans, when they're relevant to us, with each other, how we interact. War has been war for a very long time. Death has been death. Love has been love. These are not new themes. These are not things that will necessarily change. I think it was fascinating. Her was one of my favorite this year because it is funny to think about what is expanding in terms of love.
Yeah.
You know, so many people are now. It's a sci-fi take on internet dating. It's a sci-fi take on people that have, you know, girlfriends on Second Life. It's different. She's an AI. She's not a real person, and that was the cool thing about it. But that's an important thing to think about. It is the new version of love, but it's still relevant. There's so many love stories that are still relevant to everyone now.
much deserving Oscar for that screenplay. For
Yeah,
her.
wonderful.
Much deserving.
I also wanted Spike Jonze's video game character. I want as my friend. His awful, swearing, adorable little spaceman was my favorite, and I loved it so much, and I rewatched that scene all the time. I want that video game. Spike Jonze should release that video game. I would play the random cave game with his, and that was Spike's voice.
That was his voice. Okay, cool.
And I would play
cool.
the hell out of that game for 8 hours. I don't care. I would follow around a little foul-mouthed alien to try and get me out of a cave
See, that's
system.
marketing
I would do it.
department,
You should have done it.
You
That is
missed
so
the ball on.
And it wasn't like it didn't look, you know, I mean, it was really beautiful cinematically, but it wasn't like the textures would have been that expensive. It was actually pretty simple looking. I would play it for 8 hours. It looked great.
That's fabulous. That's really fantastic.
Wrapping up.
Yeah.
Rapid fire. No right or wrong answer. Just your total
Cool.
opinion.
Okay.
All right. Favorite Lord of the Rings movie?
Two Towers.
Thank you.
But Two Towers extended because he goes to the the Entlings, because I love the Ents so much, and there's more of them, and I love
Yes.
it.
That extra bit of Treebeard's
know,
poetry
I know.
is brilliant. Really brilliant.
I loved the way they did them. They made me happy.
Favorite book?
Yep.
A favorite Lord of the Rings book?
Probably the Two Towers as well. I mean,
Favorite character?
ooh, that's hard. Gandalf.
Samwise.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you played him.
Not even without that. Look,
I love his transformation in that book, and it's so fascinating to me. And
I've been one of those people who actually says the story isn't Frodo's story, it's Sam's story.
it is very much Sam.
Yeah, I mean, the door closes, the book closes on Sam.
Favorite
You know?
I mean,
race?
it's not, I don't think it's either. I think it's just I'd never. Anywho, go on.
Yeah.
Favorite race in Middle Earth?
Ah.
Oh. Probably the Ents as well. They're funny. I like that they lost their women. It makes me laugh.
Rivendell or the Shire?
Rivendell. It's so pretty.
Okay.
I want to live there. I would live in the trees. It's so beautiful. There's so many of their different realms there that are the elf realms that you're like, oh, okay, you guys were like the architects, and it's also, I would live there.
Okay, so then Thranduil's elf realm or Galadriel's elf realm or
Elrond.
Ooh. I feel like it's like Elrond's would be the vacation home because it's got like it's the beautiful view in the mountains with the
it's always
waterfalls. But
sunset.
Galadriel's would probably be where I'd want to live. That would be such a cool place to live, and it seems so peaceful, and the lights and the trees I would love. But Elrond's the vacation home for me.
well, this was amazing.
It was so fun. Thank you guys for having me. I was really
Yes.
scared actually initially, but I'm happy it was more of like a free form
Why?
thing.
Because we just
I
went
don't know.
on
I thought
Twitter,
everyone was gonna like
No.
quiz. They ask you like really specific questions that I wouldn't know.
like
No,
you know in
no, no,
chapter
no.
3 of Baron and Luthien's love story. Like he can ask
It would have
those
been
questions.
too. Yes, then that would be. I would let him answer
No,
for
I'll
me.
tell you something. I thought that the Tauriel Keeley thing almost was given so much more screen time.
Yeah.
It
And I
almost
also- he's
upstaged
so-
the
To be fair,
Aragorn and
he's so
Arwen.
much warmer in it too that I get it. Like if you're gonna have a girl connect with someone, that made sense to me.
Well, Aragorn would never say, "I might have anything down my pants." Aragorn would never say that.
it was just.
So
And and
That was an
Viggo
interesting
took
thing.
took that role so seriously.
he did. He was
And
lovely.
hiked
He
know,
was
I
those
loved
mountains.
him.
He's lovely.
He was my
He's lovely.
favorite.
I want-
And he looked so dirty and sexy.
Oh, meow, meow, meow.
I loved him. I was such a fangirl. I remember I
you
went
have
to
the
the midnight
posters?
showing of the first movie.
What theater?
And I went with a bunch of my girls to the Lord of the Rings.
Which
Yeah.
theater?
Oh, I was in San Francisco.
Okay.
Just like Century something. I went with 3 of my friends who were also Lord of the Rings fans, and we were 15. I don't remember now. So we were all in school together, and they were all like, Legolas, Legolas. And I'm going, you can have him. You can call dibs on Blondie. I want that one. And they're like, why? He's like a hobo. I was like, just wait. He's my favorite.
That's hysterical.
But thank you guys for having me, and hopefully we can do it again when the next one comes out.
Thank you,
Yes,
Zelda.
love that.
Ladies and gentlemen, watching us on TheOneRing.net, this has been...
TheOneRing.net is a
That's
hands.
us, yes.
TheOneRing.net.
This has been Zelda Williams, an interlude, a lovely interlude with Zelda Williams, and we have to talk more Miyazaki. We have
Yes,
to talk
anytime.
more stuff.
They
And
can talk about that. I'll go to Sweden.
you don't know what you're missing.
Oh, come on. They'll drag you into some. Did you see Totoro? Anywho, we'll get too involved.
Did you see?
Thank you.
And we have to talk about the Academy screwing things up all the time, because that's a fascinating sub conversation.
To end on a
about that.
really fun point about Hollywood.
Yes.
So many people don't even understand that the Golden Globes is decided by the friggin' Hollywood Foreign Press, which is like the woman who runs OK in Britain and like a guy who runs a Swedish fishing magazine. It doesn't, people act like it's like this huge thing.
It's owned by Dick Clark Productions.
It's ridiculous.
Yes, it
Everyone
is, it
sits
is.
there and they're like, oh, she's going to win the Oscar. I'm like, this doesn't have to do with anything.
No,
it's a
it's-
popularity contest because she did the cover of their magazine or something, but it's like, it
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. And
Yeah.
anywho, that's Hollywood for you. They hide it. They hide it away. It's their version of like this, like, you cannot know about this secret thing. And it's stupid. It doesn't mean anything. Go watch the SAG Awards. Then you'll watch them really honor some amazing people because
Yes.
it's voted for by their peers. And the Academy,
Thank
a lot
you.
of their peers vote for
Thank
it. It's
you.
just a lot of older peers as well. So it's why a lot of people that full frontal male nudity, they will never win probably an Oscar for that. And
Really?
It's sad. Yeah, because a lot of the voters for the Academy are like over 75. It was something like
Yeah, they
ridiculous,
don't-
like 70% of the voters are over 80.
Older
and they're
than
like, I
dust.
don't want to see cock.
Ow, who is putting
Older
that
than
on?
dust.
But they love vagina apparently. They're like, you
always
can get
is.
ladies naked all the time. We'll vote for them. Kate Winslet and
So the lesson is, just because The Hobbit hasn't won anything doesn't mean it's a bad movie.
true.
Mike,
We're spinning it around.
Mike,
Vagina in it.
It needs more.
puts-
The Hobbit needs vagina.
oh my gosh.
He just said it didn't.
No,
brilliant.
that's what he said. I was saying that.
Voting member.
Michael Fassbender drops his pants, and then everyone in this town is talking about it. That's where we live.
Yeah, but he's
we
done
live
that
in
a lot. He
Hollywood.
did it in Hunger. He did it in
Yeah,
Shame.
yes, thank you.
Both fantastic performances. I don't know if he deserved to win, but he deserved to be nominated. Hunger, especially.
He deserves a condom to be named after him. He deserves
Yes.
a special.
He does deserve that.
He deserves his own Michael Fassbender condom. That's what he deserves.
That won't fit most men.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen, Zelda Williams.
Bye.
It's so lovely to have you
You
here.
too.
You're fantastic.
Thank you.
Of
Very, very
course,
good.
it was really fun to be here.
We want to say thank you to Justin, and thank you to Dennis Prazawa, and thank you to Efren, all the folks who work behind the scenes that you guys don't get to see too much. There's a lot of jiggery, pokery, technical stuff happening, and we're here in a new little setup in Meltdown Comics. We'll see you next Tuesday because, believe it or not, we'll be speaking with Peter Hambleton and John Callan, the actors who play the brothers Owen and Glowing from the Hobbit trilogy. You want to
So good.
come say hi to the Hobbits?
I will come say hi, maybe. I would not be good at talking to them.
They're going to be together in Wellington, so they're going to bring a Skype special interview via
Jeez,
the interwebs.
Better get on my game then.
You better get that
Get on
Skype
it.
to work.
Yeah.
So, and we're going to definitely have the two boys. They're going to be talking about, Gimli, Glowin, father-son stuff, and all the stuff you're not supposed to know about There and Back Again. We're going to talk next week. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
Yay. Bye.
Bye. That was so fun.
That was all
guys.
great.
Thank you.
That was great. Awesome sauce.
Oh, my butt's asleep. Thanks.
You're a trooper, Zelda.